appreciate all the support that you've ever given us, and go Cog Prime.
And I want to make sure you get your trophy here as well, man. MVP, Sino, and his heavy, man. Make sure you hold on to it for me. MVP, raise it up for him, man.
It's just so incredible. I'm so happy. And I've always wanted to tell my parents that I finally won this tournament. So Mom, Dad, I finally won Worlds.
Feels like I'm in a dream. I haven't woken up yet. Hopefully this dream never stops.
Splice are going to be your season 5 world champions. This is their moment. Untouched, unscathed, bow down to your kings, the Camelot Kings, champions of the world.
Well, it's a beautiful Sunday morning here in Alpharetta, Georgia, and of course that means we've got a lot of fun SMITE on the docket for you today. 3 whole sets, and I don't think a single one of them is going to disappoint. A lot of standings implications that still can be applied, and that's the thing that's really interesting. Somehow, it's all still happening. Of course, you want to see what's happening today. Dragons playing up the Leviathans. That's going to be a fight for second, right? Dragons, I think they have to 2-0 here if they want to try and get that leap. You go to Ferrymen and Hounds, and depending on how that one goes, you're potentially seeing a fight for second because of the way things have shaken out this week, right? Hounds beating the Kings yesterday makes things interesting. Of course, the fight for first still up at the top. Kings and Ravens winner, I believe, is all it takes to move forward there. And you can see the standings. Ravens, if they win, they're done. Kings win, they'll have to head-to-head over the Ravens. And so that's where that conversation comes in. Then we get into plus-minuses depending on a lot of this other stuff. If you see a few teams at 6 and 4 in the order division today, it might just make things complex. But you know what? We got to get there first, and that's what really matters right now. Everything today has some sort of implication. Maybe not Masters trips, right, for anybody in Chaos. That's been secured by the Warriors for a while.
How'd they do it?
Absolutely insane undefeated streak. And you know what, Mifflin? They did it by beating everybody in the league.
Everybody in the league, in division, out of division.
Yeah, like literally everybody.
Literally everybody in the league. Historic.
And making sure that they know, or have kind of put their stamp here on SMITE. Yeah, it's Gore, it's Mifflin, and of course we're going to be watching Dragons Leviathans up first. This is one I'm really excited for. Leviathans looking pretty good yesterday, but up against the Gladiators, I think this one may be a little bit of a heat check both for the Dragons and for the Leviathans. And honestly, with what we have seen from these teams, especially specifically having Shinto here, it feels like the Leviathans have gotten a little bit of a power up over the last week.
Yeah, the first week with Shinto back, it took a little while, I think, to adjust, but since then, they really have made some wide strides on the Atlantis Leviathans. I've really liked adapting in particular as well. Feels like he has really slotted in well with this team, has become that early game guy when need be, has become that late game guy when need be as well, so that adaptability, perhaps his namesake, very valuable to the Atlantis Leviathans. And just having Shinto back on normal ping just seems like things have gotten a lot better for them.
I know yesterday I was seeing a lot of conversations around solo lane. I think we've been talking a lot about it, right? After SOT goes, 9-0 one of those games, you kind of have to talk about the lane in general. And a lot of people I know in that conversation find, okay, Nika almost always come up. And that's going to be one that we're treated to here this morning. And of course, you don't have to hear about that matchup from me. We actually have Nika standing by to talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. I got the solo laner, Nika, for the Jade Dragons here with me for our pregame interview. Nika, going up against the Leviathans, your team, their team has been a little bit of a hard startup, trying to find that momentum maybe towards kind of the end of the phase. How important is a matchup like this moving in towards playoffs for your team?
I think the most important thing is to just try and end on a win after such a rough phase. I mean, there's just so much to work on, and just getting a win will just help boost your confidence a little bit going into the seeding tournament. But I think for us, we're just trying to work on as many issues as we've had and to make sure we're strong for the tournaments coming up.
Now, specifically in matchups that we saw, at least this past weekend with the Leviathans, for what Adapting has been doing, it's been a lot of focus over towards kind of the solo lane, kind of trying to camp out over on that side. Does that maybe kind of worry you in some of your matchups against FineOK that maybe Adapting could be coming over towards your lane at pretty much any given moment?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely something I have to look out for. I mean, it's he's just always been very good at that kind of style and playing through a solo laner. So me and Les are gonna definitely have to be aware of that and play around it too.
Now, what are your take on some of the builds that FineOK was going in his matchup yesterday? I believe he ran the Nike, ran immediate a Frostbound, a Mid-Guardian Mail, all these kind of weird things. What are some of your takes on some of these more oddball solo builds you've been seeing recent?
I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot of items which are on the board, I mean, even SOT, like with the Mystical Mail Rush, like that was super interesting as well, which he did against Glads. I think it's always cool to see people trying like new builds and making them work.
Now, specifically for your match, I believe it was touched on briefly on the desk, but this one needs to be a 2-0 if you guys want to have that jump over. The last time you guys faced the Leviathans, they got a 2-1 win. So in the head-to-head, would need to have that extra game win. So how important is that 2-0, and do you think it'll be difficult to maybe trying to find a 2-0 against a team like the Leviathans?
It's definitely difficult. I mean, I'd say like both teams have struggled, but you know it's going to be a close set regardless, in my opinion. Whether it's like important to be second or third, I mean that's like up for debate. I think just most important is to have a good showing and show some progress as a team in general. Well,
Nika, it was great to have you here for the interview. I'll let you get back with your team. Good luck in your set, and we'll throw it back over to the desk.
Thank you.
Honestly, a sentiment I think I can agree with, right? Entirely just have a good showing, right? Ideally, you get the win, but as long as you can come out of this set and think, you know what, we ended the way we at least wanted to end it. Going into playoffs, it's not the end of the world. We're not stressing too much. I think that's a really good spot for either of these teams to be in, because it has been a rough phase, both for the Dragons, as we had just heard, but also for the Leviathans, right? Yesterday they get a win, and we had kind of touched on it earlier, like Fine OK's matchup here. Shinto being back in studio is going to be interesting. Adapting is just an absolute menace when it comes down to it. First one this phase to hit 100 kills. And then you get Zap with some stellar performances, Wrong Hue with stellar performances. I mean, it feels like the team is finally reacting, and not even reacting, getting back into their own, right? Getting back to the Leviathans that we've come to expect.
Yeah, and that performance up against the Gladiators yesterday, I think, very good for the Leviathans and their fans to see that this is a team that is still capable of just absolutely dominating. I'd heard rumblings from the community. Are the Leviathans a middle-of-the-pack team? Are they maybe lower right now? A lot of people saying, well, it's probably got to do with Shinto on ping, or maybe it's the adaptations of having to play with a new jungler core or having Fine OK move over to the soul lane. I think a lot of it has been rectified by getting Shinto back on U.S. soil. The team has looked a lot better for it, and having had the opportunity to speak with Shinto a few times in the past, I know that he can be a social battery for this team, a very good influence to have around, and one that can keep their heads right on their shoulders. The Leviathans and their fans really hoping to see more of what we saw yesterday, right? That performance from the Gladiator is something you really need to be able to continually do up against a struggling Jade Dragons who are, let's not mince words, not playing to the expectations of the community or even the analysts had coming into this phase. I think this would be a phenomenal heat check for the Levi's.
Mifflin, I got to correct myself because I lied to you. Adapting was the second player
to
hit 100 kills.
Who's
because Panatom did it first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Adapting, man, coming into this week, he had 10 more kills, but Panatom got to play 2 sets before them. So maybe makes up for a little bit of that transition. That being said, they're both the only 2 that have been able to get over that mark so far. Oath is on the list, and so potential for them to continue trying to, I guess, continue that run, right? And honestly, I'm looking at this team, and like you said, and what they're trying to do, what they're able to do, and like as mentioned, with the way the sieges have been specifically for the Dragons lately,
they've been rough.
It feels like the Leviathans have had cleaner last few games. That being said, yesterday the Dragons didn't have an easy matchup, right? If we're comparing it, almost apples to oranges, right? Dragons up against the Warriors, Leviathans up against the Gladiators. Very different, straight up, just different caliber of match that you're going to have to step into. Both of them are 2-0s. But Zap did go on record saying that, as he pulls a Benny Q, did go on record saying that it's a shame for the Warriors to win, get this monumental win streak, just to lose to them at Masters. And it's one of those things that it feels like, oh, ha, 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 funny, Zapman. But then, like, they come out in 2-0, they look a lot better in the process. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. Like, are you guys, like, actually feeling it? Like, was that a legit tweet? Was that a meme tweet? I feel like they're actually feeling it.
Yeah, and the Leviathans have always been a team, and any team with Zapman on it, really. We got to talk about his ability to be IGL, both on-field and off-field. Feels like they've got incredibly strong mental. I like to attribute that PK run where every game was going 70 minutes and they would have all their Phoenixes down consistently and still make the comeback. A lot of people say, oh, that's Neo Ma mental. Yeah. I think Zapman played pretty heavily into that as well. And up against the Jade Dragons, I'm so happy you brought it up. A team that has really struggled to close out games. The Dragons have consistently gotten to the enemy base, have broken it, had 1, 2, 3 birds down at times. It's just closing it out that has really been a struggle. The Levi's are going to make you earn it.
And with the God pool that they have, it's something that I think is going to make their sieges even more difficult for the Dragons, right? Good defense, typically picked up by the Leviathans. We'll see what they do here. Picks and bans game number 1. Leviathans first pick. And Mifflin, there's a lot of ways this game can go, and a lot of ways that these picks and bans can go. It feels like Leviathans yesterday were willing to put a lot of weight on Marty. They also were willing to let a Vamana through for the Gladiators. Don't know if they're going to do that again. They did ban it in the second game they played because it ended up being such a big nuisance. They don't even have to because that gets banned out by the Dragons. Another one, but you can see it, right? Top SPL bans, near the top, but also against both of these teams, the Thor. It's something that really has to come to the conversation. And for adapting, I mean, it's literally iconic. There are people who are playing in the league right now who started playing because they watched Adapting's Thor.
That's me too.
Yeah.
I was out there watching, 13 years old, saw King Kenneth hit the battleground, one of the first 2 people on the planet to do the actual Thor combo. That's dunk, auto attack, hammer, auto attack, stun, again into an auto attack. It's him and Dagars that kind of spearheaded that play style and showed people, there's a really high mechanical ceiling on this pick. So I think the Jade Dragon's doing right to show some respect and take that Thor away immediately. The Vamana ban, I think, interesting from the Jade Dragons in that the Jade Dragons do not strike me as a Vamana team. And when they do take Vamana, it's not usually out of the jungle. I believe Nika has played it once or twice, maybe one game from Lasbra as well. But they really do prefer to have the much more standard sort of lock-ins. Nika wants to play something with a good deal of CC or team-wide utility. Vamana isn't exactly that. Lasbra really likes playing things that can be a solo agent in the back line, 100-0 quickly potential. And Vamana isn't that either. So I think the Jade Dragons in this position, considering the bans from the Leviathans, that ban towards Vamana is just an indicator of we don't have one, we don't want it.
Well, hell. Not something the Leviathans go to often, and that is the name of a god, not just me cursing for the sake of it. So this is one that we've seen most of the time this phase going to support. We have, though, seen the stray mid lane from it, and I feel like that's been, Ferryman mainly, right? They threw it over there for Paul. Shinto has a good hell. Do you like it in mid right now? Does the itemization play well for it, or does it feel just stronger as a support?
I like hell anywhere but support. That's me personally.
Yeah.
If it's not awesome Jake 408 playing hell, I generally much prefer to see it in mid. A lot of the changes to hell coming into year 10 that have made her strong in support, namely the ability to strip power away in that light stance, I think is the primary reason you want to be in that back line. That makes sense to me. Okay, let's toss her in support, see how it feels. But a lot of the other changes are her light stance first ability has more consistent damage. Her dark stance first ability now goes through walls, so her poke is much higher. She already had an incredibly strong early game out of the mid lane, even in year 9. So I think I really do prefer to see her in mid, where you can get even more healing, you can get even more damage. It's just a very, very powerful early game pick that's got high mobility thanks to the additional movement speed from her heal as well. She is, I think, slept on in her mage potential.
Yeah. The question that I think has to follow that up, right, is she's more valuable in your eyes in mid than support. But is she more valuable, period, than Marty and Hebo? That feels like a really, really strong top 2 for the Dragons. And yeah, you get Susanoo, Hachi, right? You leave some strong picks for yourself, but it feels like that hell was very highly valued by the Leviathans. And I don't think the Dragons came off worse because of it.
Yeah, I think had it been maybe even Guan Yu Hachimon for the Leviathans, I would have been much more on board with this top 3. And that's not to say that Susanoo is poor. Susanoo is an amazing pick. Very powerful, great initiator, team fight, AoE, CC. It's literally everything I like in an assassin. But how hell and how the healing meta has started to form out in year 10, it feels like 2 healers is where the value is.
Yeah.
If you actually want to sustain in a team fight and drag out a Fire Giant dance or a Phoenix dance, that secondary healer is so important, and how Guan Yu synergizes with hell would have been phenomenal. Getting that additional cooldown off of your own heals while Guan Yu is healing you, just further bursting or boosting your healing potential, I think would have been very, very valuable. But then you compare it to the top 3 of the Jade Dragons, and it's a lot of pressure from Marty, late game scaling from the Hebo, and Guan Yu, one of the more effective solo healers as well, because a lot of what he brings to the team fight is that cooldown reduction utility. Sure, you can get that 150 heal, and it feels pretty good in the late game, and maybe it helps you survive. but it's more so, oh, he took a second off my leap, I'm now over a wall, or he took a second off my burst ability, and I finished off a kill, and that, I think, is one of the primary strengths of Guan Yu.
Yeah.
So I like both these drafts a lot. I would argue the Jade Dragons have likely come ahead here, ever so slightly.
Well, they ban out Hercules and Odin, trying to limit those matchups. I'm surprised Hercules has fallen pretty far. I mean, he was, for a long time, either must ban, must pick. Maybe not first pick, though, as we actually saw him make it through quite a few times, and then he had like just a dominant performance. Odin makes sense given the composition. And then you get the Rom, the Fenrir band on the other side. Atlas locked in. Not someone we get to see too often nowadays, but Mike's very vocal right now, so I have a strong feeling he's absolutely feeling the pickup.
It's a Guardian. It's got CC. It's better than the Afro Hell we've been seeing from Mike a lot recently. So I think Blanket just better than Sylvanas as well. So this might be one of the best selections we've seen from Mike. With that said, up against the Atlantis Leviathans and how the CC applies from Atlas, that second ability, the pull, takes a good long while to channel. That's very reactable counter CC. So the cleanse now from Hell, I think, has a very easy target. Got you baited a bit as well. Looks like it will be Hell out of support. Thoth out of mid for Shinto. And Shinto is very good on this pick. I like the draft. Now I am concerned for the initiation, though. I thought we would see that shored up by a support pickup. Having now the information that this Hell is likely headed for support, I need to see just a little bit more CC from the Atlantis Leviathans. Or they can all in on this artillery style of play, have it be a solo agent in the back line, something that can just create a little bit of space, have Hachiman and Thoth do essentially everything, apply poke, rely on the Hell for healing. There's your CC core.
Yep.
That's all you could ever really need, as well as some additional sustain. I like this draft from the Leviathans. It feels like a king protection composition. Just keep Shinto alive and let him do work.
And honestly, just because of the matchup you had mentioned, Hell versus Atlas, maybe worthwhile having her over there in the lane where she's going to disrupt him the entire game instead of maybe giving up a couple of kills. Kurnanos locked in towards the end, so it is double Hunter. Marty more than likely going mid in that case with a Hebo out of the jungle. A lot of damage on the Dragons, especially in the 2v2 in mid when you're talking jungle plus your mid laner. Hebo, Marty versus Thoth, Susano, but there's definitely, like you said, the team fight phase, which is what the Leviathans used to play for anyway. Cthulhu makes up for a lot of those issues. Then you add in the healing. You had mentioned artillery shots. And it feels like Cthulhu on his own, like that ult, should be enough to make it so that Thoth feels pretty safe.
Yeah, good luck to Hebo or either of the double Hunter core working through a Cthulhu. You have to kill him, essentially. He's not going to let you walk past him and jump into that back line and start disrupting the Thoth or even the Hachiman. So the Jade Dragons have got a composition that can do that. It's actually very good at killing a Cthulhu. Anytime there's double Hunter, Kin size, of course, going to find a lot of value. And here in year 10, 6.5% of an HP pool on every auto attack. So long as you're over 25%, 100 HP, very, very useful at dealing with Cthulhu. So that is fine for the Jade Dragons. The concern is can you make it to that portion of the game from a state where you still have the capacity to fight in, that you still have the capacity to deal with this Cthulhu? Because when I'm thinking through the eyes of the Leviathan's jungler as a Susano, I'm seeing a whole lot of great targets throughout the early game. Can I jump onto a Hebo? Absolutely. Can you deal with a CERN? Absolutely. Can Atlas be locked down? 100%. The only one you're kind of concerned about, or ones rather, would be the Marty, thanks to that death from above, that ability to remove yourself from the playfield with a banish. Makes it a little bit more difficult for Susano. And Guan Yu, of course, just very difficult to shut down in general. But so long as this Susano can stick to Hebo or CERN or any of them, really, and just shut down that early game, it would really make the Jade Dragon struggle in the actual team fight.
When you're looking at these jungle matchups, as we have, there's a lot of weight right there, right? If you fall behind, we've talked about this a lot. Hebo jungle, adapting actually notably, did fall behind on this pick at one point and was able to make a comeback for the Leviathans. Late game, you hit 38 minutes, you're still a Hebo. But if you hit 20 minutes and you're down 0-2, 0-3, you're not really doing too much. I think that's going to be a huge pressure point, much to your credit. And then, of course, if you're talking team fights, good luck Hebo getting past Cthulhu, as you mentioned, right? It's just a stacked compound here for the Leviathans. We'll see how well it works out, how well the Dragons can clap back here in game number 1.
That's right. Leviathans and the Dragons in their final best of 3 of the season, and standing implications on the line. The Jade Dragons need to find a 2-0 if they want to jump themselves up to 2nd seed. Otherwise, it'll be a 3rd seed finish for them. Leviathans can sit pretty until that playoffs time. It's J-Mac, Charlie, and Doug here for game number 1 between the Leviathans and the Dragons. The fans actually giving a 60-40 favor, Charlie, over to the Leviathans. Maybe you think that could be maybe a bit of recency bias. You know, Leviathans just found a win yesterday against the Leviathans. The Dragons suffered a loss against the Oni Warriors just earlier on. Or do you maybe think some of the composition of Leviathans have drafted here? Shinto on Thoth, Wrong You with this Hell, and Final K upon this Cthulhu. Maybe a little bit of the composition kind of eyeing towards that favoritism.
Well, J-Mac, I'll tell you one thing.
Just one thing?
I never know what Chet's thinking.
That's fair.
That's step one. If it's not the Oni Warriors, Chet's usually pretty split, and that's because they've got their favorites. They've got recency bias. There's a lot at play. But in a matchup like this, if I was looking at compositions alone, I could see why the Leviathans have some backup here. Final K on the Cthulhu is a great pick, of course, adapting on the Susano. This Hell has been very coveted here for Wrong You, and the CC on the side of the Jade Dragons, as Mifflin highlighted, very telegraphed. That grab from Atlas, pretty easy to say, hey, I'm just going to cleanse. Like, you are not going to get...
Adapting? Are you okay, buddy? Just walked up into the minion wave, rooted by Dardes with the Bramble Blast, and knock up after from Lasbra, and damage just too much. The Jade Dragons on the board at 40 seconds in the game.
He has so much movement, and it just...
He has a lot.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. The cripple must have been very on point there from Dardes, but there's not that much. And Dardes is dashing in. He is tired of getting aggressed upon. Dardes does so much damage on this Cern. Doesn't seem like adapting wants to teleport in. And Lasbra, he's not going to let Shinto sit back for free. Beautiful first blood there. That's just so much damage that Cern can provide in the mid lane.
I mean, I got to see exactly what even happened in that first blood. Thankfully, we do have the replay for it immediately out of lane. I mean, this is fresh off the red buff going down. I mean, that's how fast this kill ended up happening in that lane, was on first wave. Not often you get a first blood, but adapting didn't go his first build. He went for his 2 and his 3, and because of that, it's just an easy pick back up.
I think it was probably because of the blink on Cern. That was probably the big difference maker there.
Too.
He probably didn't expect Dardes to blink on him at level 2, as I also didn't. Watching it back, I was like, huh. Dardes closed gap pretty quickly there, and now Vote, he's in some big trouble.
Pull in by adapting does connect with Vote, but he just doesn't have the damage follow-up after the Storm actually connects to somebody else. It was a minion that got tagged there. So adapting losing out on that dot damage afterwards. Leviathans try to get active on the right side, nearly take down Vote, but just not enough damage.
Yeah, adapting. Lucky he had a health pod going, or he would have died to that tower shot for sure. Not able to find the gank. I do like that the Susano is still trying to get active, especially after falling down early. Lasbra's going to take away these back camps, but can you find the Hebo in the jungle? Probably not. The blink not available for 28 seconds. The question now becomes, is a blue buff invade possible, or is Vote? Is he still in trouble?
Cleanse is there from Wrong You, a quick onk. Vote's running maybe the wrong direction, trying to buy some time, buy some space. Zapman's going to try and close in the gap. Just find the dash rooted in place. Mike going to slow him down as well. Banner drops through, but Zap doesn't have the dash anymore. Still on cooldown. Picked up now by
Shoulder
PBM,
charge?
slammed against the wall. Dash, how close is it for Mike? Does hit, the slow is there. Root, not enough damage. Zapman lives just barely. And the Astrolabe just a tad shy off a cooldown from Mike to secure the kill.
Wow, there's been not only some scrapping, but some low health bars here. Vote. I mean, Marty's walk animation, looks so lackadaisical, but he was like, I really hope I can make it out of here, right? He had to sprint away to make sure that not only the banner, but the auto attacks after didn't connect. So Vote's going to be just fine. Twice now, he's been knocking on death's door. Mike almost had the damage as well, but just didn't quite have the mana and probably the cooldowns there with the Astrolabe, not able to confirm that kill. Still only 1 on the board. But Dardes is going to be just fine here in lane. Finished up that Dev Gauntlet. Sure, he's going to not be able to outrange Shinto on the Thoth. We've seen how much damage the Cern can do, especially with an early lead. XP-wise, Shinto's still sitting ahead, but I'm assuming Dardes is going to be able to correct that pretty soon here.
Adapting's only level 4 up against Lasbra, level 6 on the Hebo. Chase down is there. Crushing Wave connects. Adapting down under half HP. A couple more shots from Lasbra do it, but with Shinto standing nearby, Adapting should just be fine unless Dardes goes another blink, a dash in, but Missed out on a couple of auto attacks that could have potentially sealed the deal. Shinto charging ult, adapting, gonna pull him right back in. And level 5 now for the King. Questionable Typhoon. But the Leviathans get their first kill.
Yeah, I think he thought Lazarus was nearby, or at the very least, he was pretty hyped about making that pull. Beautiful play. Shinto charges it up, and unfortunately for Dardes, if you start Blink, there's not you can't pre-beads a pull or Aegis that Thoughtful. Beautiful play to answer back here for the Jade Dragons, that is, because they were able to grab that first blood and shut down that kill on a Dardes. This time goes over to adapting, so maybe he'll get a little bit closer to finishing up that Transcendent, which is something that you really need on this Susano. Try and get those stacks online as quickly as possible to get the benefits of that evolved Transcendence. But Shinto seems to be on point, and that's a good sign, right? The Thoth is going to be able to deal a lot with what the Jade Dragons want to do until the rotations come in, and until there's a Guan Yu to try and run him down. Hebo and CERN, they can't close that gap without their blinks, and they're not going to be up for another minute and a half or so.
And that's a lot of what Adapting was talking about in his interview just the other day, was that now that Shinto's here, he's playing no longer on pretty hefty ping with the rest of his team, can now effectively communicate and be able to maybe play some of those more mechanically intensive gods, those ones that need that lower ping to hit those big skill shots and have had the time to scrim with them. And so far, it seems to be working out for him. 0-1 on the Thoth. And that kill for Adapting to help him try and get back in, because he was 2 levels down to Lasbra. Coming into that gank, hits level 5 off the kill. Did let the Typhoon rip, maybe just in celebration of being able to get back in the game.
Yeah, we've all sent an ultimate out just to celebrate getting a kill, right? You know, like, hey, the kill went down. Easy for me, I'm just going to drop the Typhoon, and in this case, it's already back up, so it's not going to be the biggest waste. And as you said, Adapting has still been able to get active, considering the early fall. Lasper was trying to get active as well. Missed the water spout over on that first attempt at killing Adapting towards those mid camps, but this Hebo's still a threat. Finished up the Doom Orb, is going to have Blink in 25 seconds. Question now becomes, are you feeling like you can kill a Cthulhu? Especially one that went Vamp Shroud into Pythags. Not a lot of tank stats. Some healing, yeah, some lifesteal. But you're not going to be able to live through a full Hebo combo, especially if Nika's there to try and provide some CC. That's why FineOK was playing back for a bit, but now he's just been sitting in the tower line. Looks like he's got some good ward vision and knows there's no Hebo coming by anytime soon. In fact, Adapting and Wrong Yu are running through the enemy jungle, making sure there's no one on this side of the map.
Really trying to facilitate what FineOK can do for the right-hand side. 4-man rotation towards the duo lane. Could potentially set up for a pick and then maybe a Gold Fury after, should it go successful, at least in either getting the kill or getting a TKO onto someone like Zapman. But for now, Leviathans just trying to hold out, and they have done so up against the Jade Dragons. First blood bounty the Dragons got effectively nullified now, as the Leviathans have pushed this game to dead even for themselves. In fact, even just barely slightly ahead as far as gold is concerned, with the XP teetering back and forth between the two teams. So as this game starts scaling a little bit later, Trail, you got a double Hunter Hebo composition on the Jade Dragons. Leviathans, you've only got one true frontliner, and Shinto's wishing he had more, because the 3-man collapsing by the Dragons just a bit too effective for the Thoth, even through beads.
You do lose the beads, and that's the issue. This Thoth has a long-range dash, but if you get your CC locked down, if you get all that dive and the blinks from Lasbra, there's no real place safe. And I think that's kind of the issue with Thoth currently, is you got to have a team around you, and if you catch a bird by himself, he's going to be getting dropped. Now we see a little bit of a rotation over to left. The question is, who's your target? PVM seems to spot this out and is just going to back up, and you get a shield buff in return. Now there's a target on Shinto's head, because remember, that was Lasbra's blink. That was not Dardas' blink. There is still a CERN that could blink in, find the cripple, use that Wild Hunt ultimate. 1 or 2 autos, and this Thoth is going to be cooked once again. So Shinto's going to have to be staying pretty far underneath that tower.
So, now for the Leviathans, having lost out on their mid laner, your beads are down. Still going to be a little bit of time before we maybe see Shinto try and play a little bit more active, waiting for those beads to come back up more than anything else. But I mean, for the Leviathans, without a true tank moving into late game, aside from FineOK, depending on how his build goes, because FineOK has been cooking something the last couple of times that we've seen his builds.
Yep.
Now my eyes are glued to what the remainder of Fino's build might be on the Cthulhu, but does this make it harder for Leviathans as you push into late game? You got double Hunter Hebo, you got Sustain on the side of the Dragons, and you've only got one true tank for your team on Leviathans, and really depending on Fino for that initiation, does this get harder for Leviathans as the game goes later?
It definitely is going to get more difficult. You have to deal with the double ADC. Hebo's going to be a threat. Guan Yu sustaining the squad. You know, the prot shred, not only from the Guan Yu, but from PBM on the Atlas as well. But I think that the Leviathans have a decent late game, especially if Final K is able to get a bit tankier. It's not easy for a Hebo to escape from a Cthulhu ultimate. It really does disrupt a lot of what you're trying to do on that character. Shinto misses the ultimate, but it looks like Adapting's here to try and help out.
Adapting gets the pull. Typhoon is there. It's just barely enough damage with the jet stream. And Leviathan's on the board, but now on the run. PBM tries to close gap, but doesn't have the pull. So to grab Wrong You and bring him back in. The Jade Dragons losing out on their mid laner. Worked out really well having this blink in the early game, but now not having those beads. Coming back to bite Dardes here in the mid game.
Yep, Dardes happy about the first blood, but now what comes after, a little bit of a 1v1 here. Zapman does get the shield above his try and hold that mounted archery as long as possible, but here comes Lasbra. He should be able to hit the crushing wave even with the ultimate.
Does go up into it, and the wave is faster than the horse. And Lasbra strikes his second kill of the game. Leviathans, though, trying to answer back on the left side. Pyromancer started up. No one from the Dragons around there, so instead, with Zapman out of the picture, it's a pull of the Gold Fury. So a trade of Pyro for gold and a kill for the Jade Dragons. Fury bouncing between this one. The Jade Dragons come out just barely on top.
Yep, smart call for both of these teams. You recognize, hey, there's a lot of pressure over on Duo. Let's go for the Pyromancer and try and get a tier 1 tower. With the help from that Runic Bomb, it will go down. And the Jade Dragons know there's no one on the left side of the map, so they can just go in for the Fury. Realistically, a horse on dry land should be able to outrun a wave, but in this case, Lasbra was just too quick. He had the speed buff. Zapman held it on for a bit too long, and I don't think he really had a way out. Once he took that path going north away from his tower, because of the way that Vote positioned, Lasbra had a pretty easy, guaranteed crushing wave there just to get that kill. But the Hachiman is going to be stuck underneath the tower for a little bit now. Standing at level 11, doesn't have that Aegis. It knows how much burst damage, not just the Hebo, but also this Martikaros can do. A huge threat once that Transcendence gets stacked up.
Darda's going crit second item. We haven't been seeing a whole lot of crit from the Hunters as of recent. It's been just a lot of the Prot Shred style build, a lot of the fast attack speed, try and take them down with kin size, dominant executioner, things of that like. But Darda's going back and experimenting with the crit on this Cernanos with that Bladed Boomerang second item, the lifesteal, at least in pocket first. So now maybe an answer for some extra objective push for the Jade Dragons as this game does go a little bit later, but 3-2 on the kills, pretty much dead even in gold, and really experience as well across the board for the two teams. And Final K for his second item, just because I want to keep track as least to what this Cthulhu builds. It did opt up for a Contagion second item. Gets him a little bit of anti-heal to try and deal with some of the sustain from the Jade Dragons, but also just that extra pulse damage whenever he does get hit by some CC.
Yep. I saw Lasbra hiding in the grass. I was wondering if he was ever going to try and go for the gank, but Zapman's not going to step even close to that pile of grass. He knows there could be someone hiding there, and again, did not have the Aegis. Now was able to go back to base, pick up that Aegis, that extra safety when Lasbra around. He's going to be a good look. We haven't seen Final K or Nika really get active in these team fights. Solo lane have sort of been left alone on an island. But it's so impactful. The ultimates is the majority of the engage here for both of these teams. That Cavalry Charge and that Descend to Madness. Just such potent team fight tools, if used correctly, especially in a jungle scrap. See a little bit of poke towards Fire Giant. No doubt not trying to pull, but Mike does have a decent pull here onto Wrong You. Not going to take much damage. It's the Leviathans who are trying to get aggressive, but there's really nothing to fight over. The Jade Dragons aren't going to take this bait.
And Wrong You wants to be on Afro so bad with how long he's been following, adapting through the jungle. Try and give him his heals some support. Maybe try and get adapting a couple of extra kills on the board as well. It's 2 kills each for the junglers. 1 death, though, onto adapting from earlier on in the game. Zapman, he's feeling the wrath of Martikaros, although just barely able to outrun the ultimate from Vote this time through because of that. Now, at least the Leviathans, knowing that Vote is down in ultimate, still has relics, though, on this Martikaros because of that. Could be an optimal gank target, but Dragons recognizing this, a group up around the Gold Fury, and now fight breaking out around mid. Ultimate from Mike has been used. It's on top of Shinto, who will turn around, charge his own ultimate, and drop Mike with it. Final Judgment clears the board As PBM falls down, maybe Lasbra in danger because Final K has rotated over. Final K hit by the knockup, but adapting there. Killing spree for the Leviathans.
That's a beautiful rotation in from Final K, but what do you get else? Dardes running as far away as possible. It doesn't seem like the Leviathans have a way to try and chase this one down, but they are still following. That Primal Fury spawns in here shortly, and remember, the Pyromancer was done essentially at mirrored time, so both objectives are going to be coming up here. And it looks like the Leviathans have the pressure around this Primal Fury. And that all starts from Shinto. I don't think he meant to dash the way he did. It sort of got caught. There is some ward vision down. Only Vote is here. He does look like he wants to go for the steal.
He's got a lot of damage. We'll throw it out there, and an ultimate as well. The Jade Dragons Hunter Vote steals it away with a tick from the depth from above. He'll lose his life for this one. But a trade out at the very end. 73 damage off that last shot that ended up connecting. Leviathans lose out on not just the Fury, though. It's Pyromancer as well, now picked up by the Jade Dragons. All of that just for Vote's life.
Yeah, that's going to be worth it. I think Vote's pretty happy. He's able to walk in. Once that ultimate comes through, it's pretty easy to just say, okay, let's back up, let's reset. You know, no one else is tanking up. But they really wanted to go with the 50-50, and why wouldn't you? You can't outburst 73 damage. In this case, Leviathans were not able to, and Vote makes the hero play, while the rest of his team grabs the Pyromancer, and PBM gets to pick up one of those runic bombs. Remember, last one was already used to grab that tier 1 tower. The Jade Dragons are trying to keep pushing that lead every time they're able to grab this objective. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a bit of a grouping towards one of these towers. Nothing happening at the moment. You got to back up and spend some of that gold. Adapting's looking real solid here. 4-1 on the Susano. Finishes up the Blood Forge. This could be a threat moving into mid to late game. About 16 minutes in, the Susano has been able to make some very impactful ultimates, especially if Shinto's there for the follow-up. The knock-up from Typhoon into Final Judgment is pretty much just going to delete Lasbra at any given moment unless he hits the pre-ult and tries to immune the knock-up with Crushing Wave.
Wrong you trying his best to maybe steal away blue, but doesn't do so. Nika able to secure that one through, and Final K going to make the wave clear a little bit harder for Nika just by canceling out that Tallow Assault. As we start to border now, 17 or so minute mark, this is around the time where teams start grouping for fire, at least maybe throwing interest that way. PBM picks up adapting, rooted in place instantly, slowed down, drops the ultimate, and runs as fast as he can, but he can't outrun the Final Judgment. Shinto on point with the ultimates today. Now notches his second kill of the game.
That's a beautiful ultimate, and it looks like grouping up in the jungle. The Leviathans still want to try and find a fight here, but it's actually the Jade Dragons that are trying to collapse. Nika makes the rotation, and now Lasbra forced to ult defensively away from Final K.
Lasbra on the run, Vote in the sky. He's got some backup whenever he lands, but Adapting is chasing him in, finds the pull. Vote half HP, but getting some heals back from Nika while Final K is still zoning Lasbra away. He can't even walk back in the jungle just because there's this menacing Tower of Cthulhu standing in front of him.
Yeah, it didn't really seem like Lasbra had to ult out, though. It was just Final K. Maybe because we had the thought process to look. Nika diving Shinto. I don't think he's got the damage for this. He will pull the beads. Doesn't look like there's too much follow-up, though, to try and kill the Guan Yu. The root from Final K not going to land, and Mike is throwing Zapman under tower. There's like 3 separate fights happening.
Zapman doesn't have ult, though. This should be a kill onto the Hachiman. Aegis away from some of Lasbra's damage, but now Adapting has shown up to try and end the party. It does take down Lasbra. Zapman doesn't live through, though. PBM shuts him down, but a Typhoon charge up to fire back against Vote. The root is good. Vote gets the shutdown onto Adapting, and maybe now a pick on a wrong U running from Nika and Dardes. Dardes does have blink up in just a couple of seconds. Can close gap. Goes right past the Final Judgment. But he goes on top of Shinto instead of Wrong Yu. It's a collapse on the hell. It connects through. Shinto is gone. Wrong Yu back under the tower. It's a 3-for-1 trade for Leviathans. And now for the Dragons, who will also attempt to now take this tier 1 tower.
Nika was able to catch the dash there from Shinto. Might have been able to run a little bit longer. Tier 1 tower will be able to drop to the Jade Dragons. Get credit for that one. Gold-wise, still looking relatively even, but the scrap, J-Mac, look at the drop just in the difference there. The Jade Dragons have been finding that aggression. A little bit of an overstay on the left side of the map. I don't see why Zap had to go for that tier 1 tower, but he lived so long. It really did seem like Lasbra wasn't going to be able to find that kill, and that's why PBM had to come in to help confirm. But like I said, split up fights. It was not a 5v5. It was, oh, there's a 2v3 over here. Oh, there's more fights happening in the jungle. And now, we've been talking so much, the Pyromancer's already back up with that Gold Fury.
Pyromancer attempted fight. Final K avoids the pickup from Mike for the first time through. Canceled before, but does go this time through. Final K, can he get to the Pyro in time? No, the Dragons will take this one away. Now notches their second Pyromancer for the Dragons, and as well 2 Furies with gold already back on the map. Wrong you gets pulled back at least by PBM from the ranged Astrolabe throw, but not much follow-up beyond there. The Jade Dragons, even despite being down in the kills, are leading this game for objectives.
Yep, and now getting some vision down on the Fury as the Leviathans call. They do have the Oracle vision, which means the Jade Dragons probably don't want to step up for the time being. There's a bit of a grouping in the jungle, though, and it is actually the Jade Dragons who are going right towards the Fury. They're going to start the pull. Nika tanking this one up while Mike is actually trying to zone or look for the fight. And Mike might be able to stop the teleport. He does.
Jade Dragons do get the Gold Fury as well. Shinto picked up by Mike. Final K now on the way in, but might just be the end of the fight. Final K blinks over the wall to keep the fight going, but he's rooted in place instantly up into the Descent of Madness, fighting off against the 2 Hunters. Meanwhile, Zapman's getting chased
Final K's
down.
getting shredded.
One horse better than the other one. Final K dropped down by Vote, and maybe another one, but Adapting takes out Dardes. Adapting able to stream his way out of here. Wrong you low, so is PBM. But the damage from Lasbury hasn't taken much this fight. Wrong you will go down. It's Vote with the double kill, double knockup by Lasbra. And the Leviathans lose out on 2. The Jade Dragons only lose Dardes, but they also get the gold.
Yep, and that's going to be another reset here. And it looks like just squatting up and grabbing some farm. Lasbra wants to hit level 20, and that is a big power spike. Adapting, being able to get in and get out has been the name of the game here. Whereas Lasbury, either in or out. You don't really have that same level of escape that the Susano provides. You're trying to one-shot, and hopefully the fight is over by the time Crushing Wave is done. Jade Dragons definitely, once again, getting the better end of that trade. But Adapting's got the lead in the jungle, and I still think that's the player to watch. Final K blinks in, tries to zone, but the rest of his team was just not on the same page. He just got absolutely shredded by Dardes. And because of that fact, you lose your Cthulhu very early on into the fight. The Descent into Madness just doesn't get that much value. It seems like Nika's been doing tons for the squad. I mean, the healing as well as just the spams is enough to keep your eyes on the Guan Yu. He's not doing the biggest damage, but you're always paying attention to the cavalry charge, and because of that, you're not able to group up properly. Jade Dragons are here. Doesn't seem like trying to kill Cthulhu's the call, and already the Leviathans have responded. It's going to be a 4v5 for the time being until Dardes shows up. And we're already looking at Fire Giant, J-Mac.
Fire Giant dance around 22 on the clock. Leviathan's down, about 3k gold, and maybe a little more of the push in from the Dragons towards this tier 1 tower, but it's a pretty hefty grouping by the Leviathans. Just to defend it here, Vote with a couple of the stealth grasses out in the lane, allows him to remain hidden with his team. Fire Giant Pit now getting some wards up. The Jade Dragons really wanting to start this one up, maybe try and find a pick if the Leviathans step out of position.
It's not going to be a startup just yet. Again, I think level 20s are still very important here. Final K's close, Zapman's close, Shinto's close. They're all level 19. It's a big deal. So because of that, Leviathans certainly aren't going to be the ones to make the pull. Whereas the Jade Dragons, with only 1 crit item on Dardes, aren't going to be able to shred through this Fire Giant that quickly. They've got immense burst, but Shinto is here. Final Judgment is always going to be a threat, especially if Lasbra or PBM or even Nika are around to try and interrupt that Final Judgment. You don't get the full charge, and Crushing Wave is just going to do so much more burst damage. I think that's why we're seeing a bit of a stall here, just trying to get some farm in the meantime, upgrade those starter items. But Pyromancer's going to be coming back up, and only 1 Runic Bomb currently in play, and that's in Nika's hands. The Jade Dragons would love to grab another.
Yeah, Pyromancer will add a nice little influx of gold to the Dragons' pockets as well.
He's got 2?
For Vote, already at that level 20, just waiting for the gold to be able to upgrade his Bluestone, about 150 gold off, but the Dragons might not even wait for that opportunity. Won't even give the Leviathans a chance to regroup. It's 3 around there. Fire Giant taken by the Leviathans. And now the Jade Dragons have got to try and fight back through. Final K in the sentiment as he takes it with his first ability in base stance. And now is fighting back. Finds a triple shot with his knockup. But the Leviathans just pushing the Dragons back. as all 5 of the Levi's with Fire Giant continuing up the chase. So FinalK gets stopped out of his route, out of his slow. And Leviathans may just have to give up the chase, but can still go for towers.
Yeah, such low health bars there. Beautiful plays. All ultimates were used. I mean, Lazarus, Shinto, they used this big burst damage, but it was the insanity break from FinalK, able to steal away the Fire Giant. The Leviathans just couldn't find the chase down. All ultimates were used. I thought Zatman might have had the Mountain at archery, but already used it at the beginning of that fight. So they just couldn't chase down the Jade Dragons, who are, by the way, already making a pull for the Primal Fury. They recognized immediately, hey, we don't want to fight. If they go in for the tier 2, we're going to have to give it up. Let's just try and grab the Primal Fury. In the meantime, try and push this gold lead a little bit further. Because you know the Leviathans are coming. I mean, once those ultimates come back up, they're going to run it down mid, run it down left, try and grab those tier 2 towers. FinalK was able to grab that Blood-Soaked Shroud. Shinto upgraded his Pendulum. These starter items are coming through, and they're going to be big power spikes for the Leviathans. Whereas the Jade Dragons, they've got good defense. They've got clear. It is very difficult to try and poke into a Marty. With Vote underneath the tower, underneath the Phoenix. He's got that big burst damage. He's got plenty of chase down kill potential with death from above. Especially if Lazarus was able to find a massive crushing wave. It's going to be a little bit of a stall game here. I wouldn't be surprised if the Leviathans just take 2 tier 2 towers and call that a win.
But certainly give them the gold to come back up against the Jade Dragon. Still behind, at least in that department, but with a free few thousand gold sitting on the map here. Leviathans could potentially break that through, but a defense here by the Jade Dragons, a 5-stack on the left side of the map. Even with the Leviathans now starting to group up there. FinalK will keep himself over towards mid, deal with the tier 2 tower there, but the range damage from Vote, keeping these minions out, not letting Leviathans push over to the left side tower. Might cost them a tier 2 in mid, but now with Lazarus rotating over, Leviathans might not be able to get anything off this Charlie. It seems like tier 2s are even out of the question right now.
Yeah, 40 seconds away. The Leviathans aren't grouped up. They're just sort of split at the moment. Zatman took a lot of poke there from Vote and got healed up. Rangu seems to be going back and forth. Yeah, they can't make up their minds. It looks like mid tower will eventually go down just by nature of those hi-rez procs, but PBM, it looks like they are going and adapting's gone!
Rushing away from Lazarus, the flaming blink from PBM as well. FinalK trying to fight back against Lazarus, does get the knockup, but maybe that's just to guarantee his own safety at this point. Tier 2 still stands in mid, thanks to the efforts of Mike and Lazarus. Finding the pick onto adapting. 38 seconds still, he is back. Fire Giant now worn off the waist of Leviathans. The only thing they gained from this was the single tier 2 tower on the right side of the map.
Yep, they just could not find their siege, and a beautiful defense there from the Jade Dragons. Lazarus getting that crushing wave off, and that's sort of the issue against these physical junglers. You never see an Aegis. It's always blink beads, and because of that, you could be in some trouble. There was also a beautiful flaming blink in there from Mike just to try and start that initiation. It ends up working out. So the Jade Dragons, if they do try and pull the Fire Giant once again, which they were the ones last time, gotta be on point with that confirm. It's all on Lazarus' hands, really. That crushing wave is your best option. Trying to time it so you don't get hit by the final judgment and you don't have to worry about that steal is one thing, but when both of those big burst damage ultimates are coming through at the same time, something as small as 197 damage from Cthulhu is able to make a steal. That's the reason the Jade Dragons are probably going to pull this one a little bit slower next time.
Fire started up by the Dragons. Leviathans grouping up. Pull from Mike only connects on to FinalK, but that's just enough. The Dragons secure yet another Pyromancer. One more Runic Bomb now in pocket. By the way, Nika used both of his at some point during all of this, whether that be to try and secure Fire Giant earlier.
Fire Giant, yeah.
Was still off the mark even despite having those. Could have also just been that the bombs got destroyed and all the cluttered chaos that had happened during that side. But now one more in pocket for the Jade Dragons. Leviathans again only getting a tier 2 tower with their last Fire Giant. Lost adapting right at the very end of the buff, but now a fresh group up around Fire. Could just be with the Doctor Order for both these two teams. Get that bit of a reset and maybe try and fight once more in a little bit more neutral territory. But I mean, Corset on the desk, you know, with his Hebos behind, you know, 20 or so minutes into the game, couple deaths onto him, maybe an item or two back. Might be easy to deal with, but we're at near 30 minutes in, and Lazarus swinging. Mike is in the back line, dealing with 3. He'll throw out the ultimate back towards FinalK, who's now in the middle of 5. He goes to Descent to the Madness, and his health bar's not going down too fast. In fact, It's Mike and Lazarus losing out on this fight. Dardas, though, takes out Adapting, who dove in alongside Fino-K, but got left by himself. Dardas chunked down by Fino-K in the Madness form, and it could be Nika next, very low in health. Are 3 of the Dragons. The Leviathans, I mean, this tower's got nothing left to it. They can just take this one down with no problem.
Yep, the Leviathans, they saw the aggression. They decided to back up a little bit until Fino-K was able to make that play from behind. And when you've got a Cthulhu covering the option, it is very difficult to try and just run away. So much disruption, so much knockups. That's going to be a free fight for the time being, trading Dardas for Adapting. But you're able to grab the Oni Fury after, unless, of course, the blink in. Nika trying to get aggressive. Remember, Zatman doesn't have the beads.
Oh, man, it's a blink and it's a double scorching blink from the Dragons. They just caused so much chaos.
Beautiful
that final
ultimate.
judgment slams 3 from Shinto, but it's just not enough damage. The Jade Dragons persevere through the fight. Now it's just Shinto and Fino-K who are still alive, but with how many people got clipped by Shinto in that fight, the Jade Dragons have got to head back to base.
They will head back to base, but they're not going to the Oni Fury. They're going to head over to that Fire Giant, which is now enhanced. It seems like the Leviathans have made the judgment call. We can't go for the defense. It's going to take them a while to try and burn through this Oni Fury. Adapting maybe can make it over in time. He's got Blink, but it seems like they're just not going to try and defend without their duo lane. Rongyu and Zatman, 2 integral to the team fight. An enhanced Fire Giant going the way of the Jade Dragons. That's a big deal. Last time, remember, their Fire Giant got stolen away. This time it's enhanced. They should have plenty of time to try and grab these towers. And they've got double ADC, so shredding through, not going to be the biggest deal. The dual lane of the Leviathans is spawned in, though. Rongyu just touched down. And it looks like a Phoenix. I mean, Adapting and Shinto are still on the left side of the map. They're going to be slow to this.
5 stack of the Dragons under the mid bird, but not quite enough damage just yet. Pushback for the Leviathans just strong enough, and now all 5 back off of respawn. And Charlie, I'm starting to go cross-eyed in this fight, keeping up with all the blinks that the Jade Dragons have between Nika and PBM with their scorching blinks. Trying to get some damage throughout here. Still trying to realize and remember the fact that Dardas has one. Didn't, in fact, even go beads. Went for the Aegis, maybe worried about the damage that Shinto and Adapting can just do as opposed to the CC that the Dragons have. But so far, it hasn't burned him too much. I mean, 2, 4, and 3. You look at that and say, well, yeah, it has kind of hurt him, but he's now starting to get the rallying around from his team with the Jade Dragons, who are nursing themselves about a 3,500 gold lead now, nearly pushing that 4K, but with everybody getting these full builds up at this point, that's just coming down to upgraded relics, a couple of power potions. The Jade Dragons, I mean, look how much gold they still have on map to deal with. There's a tier 2 in mid now. Tier 1 in right, Pyromancer, and a Tier 2 to work on next.
And that's what they're going for. Tier 2 over on right. They are playing this slow. The Phoenixes are not just getting burned, despite the fact that this double ADC composition is here, because the front line of the Leviathans is relatively tanky. Fino-K and Rongyu have been able to stand at the forefront of the fight for a fair bit. I'm wondering how the split's going to be right now. It seems like a 3-2. Vote and Nika sitting in the mid lane while the rest of the Dragons over on right. And that is going to be the call. I mean, they've got the Runic Bomb. This mid Phoenix is going down fast.
Vote didn't step in to deal the last couple of shots of damage. They've got enhanced Fire Giant. I mean, Nika and Vote could just walk in and grab this one, but playing very patient, trying to get some of that poke damage out towards Fino-K, towards Rongyu, who walked over earlier. A 3-2 split, a very weak bird in mid. The Jade Dragons really playing this one patiently until Nika pulls the trigger, goes on top of Fino-K, half HP already on the Cthulhu, forced out, but Mike, he's stuck inside the Phoenix, and now Dardas is forced to dash out. The Leviathans, they repel the Dragons on one front, but the Jade Dragons finally break the base, taking the mid-bird.
Yep, they're able to grab that mid Phoenix and back up. I saw that Mike went into the Spear of the Magus, but going into Staff of Mirrodin as well. This is a very squishy Atlas build. He's got the Prophetic Cloak, sure, but it is a lot of damage on the side of this Atlas, and that may be the reason that Mike can't be at the forefront of these fights for very long. The Jade Dragons are trying to figure out if they want to retreat or look for another engage in the jungle, but it looks like they thought better of it, heading back to base. They don't have much time left. Yeah, that buff is worn off, so it's just going to be the mid Phoenix dropping, which shouldn't be the biggest deal. Still relatively close to the enhanced Fire Giant. And now it's the Leviathan stepping forward into the jungle, trying to see if they can find a free pick. There's no one on the Dragons that are even close to this side of the map, though. They're all on the right grabbing buffs and looking towards EFG. So I don't think the Leviathan's going to catch anything.
Now for the Jade Dragons. Is it a group around fire? Certainly not going to be a defense on tier 2. That one is foregone conclusion here for the Leviathans. But maybe for the Leviathans now, it's their time to answer the question. Do they defend and step up to a fire giant, or they stand by this Fury? It seems the Dragons don't even care about grouping around fire. They're heading over to the left side of the map as well. Maybe it's because of this oh so important Primal Fury that's now spawned in. The Leviathans would love to have this one slow down the damage of the Dragons around the fire, but the Leviathans are just going to head back to base. The Dragons all still here. They're beelining over to Fire Giant. In fact, Dart has even blinked over to it just to get it started up.
Yeah, it's only going to be Wrong You here. It looks like burning through very quickly. The Jade Dragons want this enhanced Fire Giant. They want it for free. Wrong You's going to step forward. It's already getting so low, though. It looks like they're giving it up.
Yeah, Fire Giant to the Dragons. Just questionable calls by the Leviathans. I mean, they grouped up around Primal, and as soon as the Dragons walked in and said, oh, well, you know, the seniors are here. We can't do anything. You know, feeling almost like freshmen up against them at this point. It's just like, oh, man, sorry, the big kids are here. We can't do this one. It was a joke, guys. They go back to base, but not only do they give up a chance at Primal, they don't even group over for Fire Giant in time. And now it's the Dragons pushing up on right lane.
Yep, confident in their defense. Shinto pumping out a lot of damage on this Thoth. It is difficult to try and push into this long-range mage. And Shinto's doing good damage, but eventually you're going to have to get to Shinto, and that's the call.
Mike tries to go for the pickup, doesn't get anybody. He's losing a lot of health, though, to Zapman and to Shinto, but Dardas gets one. Zapman dropped by Vote, but Shinto will take out Lasbra. It's a 2-for-2 trade. Make it 3, though, as the Leviathans lose an extra one. During all of this, Lasbra actually takes one out with him. At the very end of it all, 3 versus 2, Shinto has an immense amount of range damage to try and fight back through, but so does Vote. The explosion combo of that Stinger and the Acid Rain is doing numbers to Shinto's health bar.
Yep, I mean, it's going to be wait until Nika's ult comes back up and then go in. In the meantime, tier 2 and left side Phoenix should be going down here. Shinto's got great damage, he's got great clear, but he only has 1 dash. And Wrong You is going to have to be on point with the cleanse here if they want to make sure to try and keep this alive. I think the Phoenix should just be dropping, though. It's going to be so difficult to try and keep this alive.
Blink onto Shinto. He is barely anything to keep him up. Here comes the cavalry, but he's already got Aegis and he's got a fountain to guarantee his life. Might just be a call for the left side Phoenix instead for the Dragons. Vote's got another ultimate. Wrong You forced back. Left side bird down. And Shinto even returning back after beads and Aegis were used. Doesn't have much. We'll try and keep this chase going.
Ooh.
Finds the run onto Dardas. Aegis has to be used. Final judgment! Shinto threads the needle, takes him down, and maybe an extra one onto Nika as Final K groups up. Shinto keeps the Leviathans alive.
Yep, that you gotta hit those blind evading punishes, and Shinto lands it, waits out the Aegis, and hits the final judgment. Now the Leviathans are able to push forward. There's already fire minions on the Titan. That tells me one thing. Leviathans have 2 plays. One, go in for the end or send someone back. Adapting is going to channel the retreat. So it looks like he will deal with the minions and Lasbra and PBM. They've got a flank here. It looks like they might try and go for some aggressive plays at the base of this Phoenix.
30 seconds for Dardas. 35 for Nika before he comes back up. The Leviathans, they're sending Adapting right down mid. PBM goes in with the blink. Shinto taken out of the fight. It's Mike's ultimate that takes him out. Now Lasbra able to take one before he goes out. Wrong You low. Final K trying to keep him alive with the heals, with the CC. The knockup is good. And now it's Adapting to the party. But Vote up in the sky will delay this time. He's done a lot of damage, but can he return it back? Agement channeled. And Vote lives through. Wrong You only barely alive.
Look at the Titan.
And Mike really wants to go through, but it's 2 waves of minions going through. Leviathans may have just sealed their own fate as the fire minions pour through. Adapting will be able to get the back through,
Mike?
but he has got an insane amount of minions to have to deal with. And Nika might just try and end this one of his own volition. Goes in with the Tallow Assault to try and end this one. They've got to kill not just minions, they got to kill Nika. Nika could stick
He's
around,
got the cavalry charge.
He's given up on this one. Wrong You and Adapting. They keep the Titan alive.
Wow, Nika decides not to go for the ultimate. Looks like he wants to group up with his team. He feels a lot stronger as a squad, and I think 4v3. Shinto's coming up in 8 and Zapman in 10 seconds. They're charging through. They're going for the end.
You got to go now. Titans at 10%. The Dragons go right through into the back line. Shinto is up, but only to watch as the Titan falls down. The Jade Dragons, they need to 2-0, and they started here in game 1.
What an absolute end to that game. Back and forth. The Leviathans just decide to let the minions pour in. They get a great fight, but just stalled out for such a long time. That wraparound play from PBM and Lasbra. They were able to just absolutely delete. The fire blinks actually got a ton of value there. I mean, it was so back and forth. When I saw Shinto, Rongyu pops the meditation and says, hey, we're dashing in, we're chasing them, we want to make sure we get this kill. Dardes gets deleted. It looked good, but those fire minions, they're going to do a number to your Titan if you let them just pile up.
Yeah, I mean, letting one fire wave in, that's usually no big deal. Titan can deal with one. But when you let, I think at that point it's now 4 fire waves in, and I'm honestly surprised Nika didn't just stick around and try and end it himself, even with the team coming back up. But better patience than I, Nika and the Jade Dragons do manage to hold this one out. They take down the Titan. And again, this is a team that needs to 2-0 if they want to get second seed. The Jade Dragons can't go for a 2-1, whether that be for their head-to-head, but the plus-minus more than anything, the important part about that one. So the Jade Dragons have got to find the 2-0. They started out strong in Game 1. Can they find it? Let's jump into Game 2 right after this.
I don't do this often, you caught me off guard. All of my friends said you moved out west. You tell me stories underneath sunsets. Could it be more than just one night? Kissing the cab ride, head turning left, right. Get a ticket for 2 to wherever you choose. Drinking some red out of the blue. You say my name with your accent, makes me remember how much I missed you. Hope you're planning to stay for a million days. You'll be my summer in December. Hey boy, trust my intuitions always. I'm not superstitious, I got lucky. Stole your heart and it was mine for the taking. I'm bad at pretending, you know I'll be true. Sunday mornings and midnight lights turn into songs that you watch me write. Stole your sweater on that night, you took a picture, keep by my bedside. So you're mine when you're gone, baby, please don't be long. I got my ticket to the west side. You say my name with your accent, makes me remember how much I missed you. Hope you're planning to stay for a million days. You'll be my summer in December. Hey boy, trust my intuitions always. I'm not superstitious, I got lucky. Stole your heart and it was mine for the taking. It was mine for the taking. It was mine for a million days, in a million ways. Stole your heart and I got lucky. Stole your heart and it was mine in a million ways, for a million
What's up, SMITE fans? It's Trelly here, and the SPL playoffs are just around the corner. June 1st through June 4th, mark your calendars. The top team from each division automatically qualifies to Masters. That leaves us with 6 teams left. They'll play each other in a double elimination bracket to determine seeding going into Masters. 2 best-of-5s every day, 4 days, all live for you to see on twitch.tv/SmiteGame, and we can't wait to see you there.
I wish I was half as chill all the time as Trelly was in just that video. I mean,
yeah, that music wasn't added in post. That's just Trelly and what he brings.
It's actually really weird when he walks around, like he walks in the room, it just starts playing like that. The Dragons are up 1-0 though here after a very topsy-turvy game, but you might want something that's not topsy-turvy, something maybe a little more guaranteed, like saving your wallet, saving some money, things like that, and you can do that right now in-game. The V-Shoujo event is live in Smite, and of course we're running huge deals on direct purchases for your favorite V-Shoujo skins. If you want to make sure that you get in on it early, you're going to get the best value you can. You can see as the weeks go on, it's going to start scaling up. Right now, 78% off. The absolute best value that you can get. Of course, if you want to represent some of your favorite streamers out there, your favorite VTubers, and as an added bonus, some of them have been playing Smite lately, and it's been really fun to watch. And so you can play with the skins, watch them, and give them support, and of course, save your wallet. All in one go. That's a really big deal, so make sure that you get in on that. It's Gore, it's Mifflin, and it's desk number 2 of the day, man. 1-0 for the Dragons, and what a back and forth, kind of like weird pace game, right? Where you see fights sometimes going for Leviathans, but they lose the neutral objectives. Then you see a neutral objective go for the Leviathans, but they lose the fight. And so it's this weird, trade, until finally they make that last call. And unfortunately for them, that last call loses them the game.
Yeah, it almost felt like in the pace of this game that every individual team fight had no bearing on the team fights that came after or the team fights that had come before. It could have gone either way until that first fire giant goes down, and then you can start looking at some of those stats and really where the lead began to develop for the Jade Dragons. And I think it starts and ends with one player in particular, PBM. This Atlas pick was just hitting, and I mean hitting damage numbers, which is absolutely ridiculous. I believe second highest on his team to close out this game, hyper active on map. I was concerned that he wouldn't be able to find too many CC pulls because of the hell on the other side. Wasn't a concern. Shouldn't have been anyway. Wrongview did not find too many cleanses there. A couple Gold Fury steals throughout the early game from the Jade Dragons keep their heads above water, and eventually, finally, given their first Enhanced Fire Giant, struggle to break the base. I believe 1 bird. Second Enhanced Fire Giant. Things get a bit easier after that. The Atlas was just doing too much in the back line. The Leviathans did not have great answers to it. In a King Protection composition, you really want on the Leviathans for Fine OK to be starting the fight or for Wrongview to be holding space. But because the Jade Dragons were more proactive on map and got to choose where the engagements happened, it was always PBM blinked in. All right, Shinto is your artillery damage. He's going to have to do it from the actual fountain because he's already down to half HP.
0, 2, and 12. For the health support, 16,000 healing. I might need to get my glasses checked if I thought that was an 8. 16,000 healing was able to put up, but not enough to keep it balanced. 45,000 you had mentioned, but also the 25K, as you had dubbed it. Third highest in the game, second highest on his team, Mike, making his presence felt and known on this Atlas. You had said going into this game that it was the best pick we had seen for him specifically over the last few weeks, and he wanted to make sure that you stayed right about that.
Thanks,
Proves
Mike.
what the Atlas was able to do, and really creates a very, I want to say weird dynamic, because now I don't know what to expect in picks and bans. I guess we'll just find out. We'll go to picks and bans for game number 2 and see how the teams have swapped things up. It's still going to be Leviathans on the left side of the screen, with the Dragons as second pick. Now, last time, Serket and Noxia Moja banned out by the Leviathans. Anything you see that maybe needs to change there?
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe the Leviathans want to take away that double hunter composition from the Jade Dragons. It seems like the Jade Dragons, or really the Oni Warriors core, have always benefited from the double hunter draft, right? If it's going to be Dardes and Vote playing together, you better believe that there's going to be opportunities to play that style of game. And it's one that they've seen a whole lot of success on for the last couple of years. Pretty easy. It's the exact same, pretty easy to stop, I should say. It's the exact same as it used to be. When Dardes was running AMC every game, ban the AMC, double hunter draft's not going to happen. Ban Marty, double hunter draft's not going to happen again. Instead, They're going to let it through. I wonder if the Leviathans take the Marty for themselves.
They are. And, you know, with Yamoja banned, I was kind of curious what was going to be the first pick. I think the Dragons had a lot of control there as to what goes first. Yesterday, Zap played this. Looked really good in game 1. Honestly, it was a little surprising that we had seen him go duo lane, but considering the item shifts that we've seen, right, crit not as prominent, maybe not the end of the world. Mifflin, I'm starting to move over to your camp, man. I'm not sure I want to see a hell. Honestly, maybe
well, hold
period.
on. Hold on. Now that Mike has shown that he is a damage dealer in game 1.
You're feeling it.
I didn't say all that, but it could work. He could have the momentum on his side. My buddy Mo, always pretty important. Look, Hell has certainly got value in support. Her win rate just hasn't been great in support. You still have great team fight sustain, utility. You can remove power from your enemies. You might not be able to find much CC, but there's a slow in the kit, and there's the ability to immune CC for your allies. I'm not in love with Hell, and I haven't been. But Mike keeps going towards it.
Yeah.
It has to be working somewhere. He wouldn't load up into the SPL for 6 weeks, lose on the Hell consistently, and load up in scrims for 6 weeks and lose there as well. There has to be a reason. Or it could be going mid. Could be mid.
I mean, take your pick. They've played it 8 times. They've won 3 of those. Kind of just up in the air as to whether or not it's going to perform. You never know. Maybe you fall in the category of those 3. Make the numbers look a little bit better. TBD for the Hell. Hachiman locked in alongside that. That one's been kind of a go-to easy pickup. Horus finally makes it through again.
This is a crazy draft from the Levi's Gore.
And it feels like Horus, like he was 100% pick banned for weeks on weeks on weeks. And then over this last week, he's not been as prominent. But now they go back to it, and honestly, wrong use Horus, it's something to be scared of.
Yeah, it should be. Wrong U is playing Horus back all the way in Season 8. Has continued to do so up until now. Has a whole lot of team fight utility, a lot of the healing that we were talking about earlier Horus affords to his team. It's that global mobility, though, not only for himself, but for his allies or minions most recently. Feels like that has really been a difference maker. But in particular, this has got to be one of the most disgusting synergistic combos in Smite right now. Martikaris plus Horus on Siege feels unstoppable. Spawn the way the grass in wave in the center of a lane.
Yeah.
Stand in the grass, start channeling the ultimate. They can't see whether or not you're going to step out of the grass, how many people are in the grass. All they know, the enemies that is that there is a ghostly Horus floating through the sky towards your mid Phoenix or your left Phoenix or your right Phoenix, whatever one you're not currently on, and you have to coin toss it. 50-50. Or is the whole team going to jump on this other bird, or are some of them going to stay here and pressure? And it's so hard to deal with.
Honestly, it makes for some fun plays, though, right? To at least watch. Maybe not to play against, as you highlight. Bans that come through. Ao Kuang taken away from the Leviathans, so adapting will go back to the Susanna. Thoth taken away as well. Other side, Afro Terra, which makes me think that the Leviathans went into this thinking that Hell was meant for mid, not for support. With the Merlin lock-in, Dragons shimmy those things around mid for the Mage, and of course someone who we've been forgetting over the last couple of days, and maybe it's more me and Dave than anybody else, but Baba Yaga, who's done a lot of damage, has brought a lot to the teams, and is being picked up pretty often, goes all the way down to 9th pick.
I think Baba Yaga is in a very good spot right now. I would put her in S tier in my own personal Mage tier list if it's Paul piloting it. Because Paul's got a lock on the build, which is Prophetic Cloak somewhere. Seems like none of the other mid laners in the league right now are really willing to build that defensive item. There's just so much damage already in kit because she's able to stack up potions, essentially get 2 ticks of your second ability in key team fights. There's so much damage from the ultimate that's consistent. So you dump your entire kit, you go into the ultimate, and then you have your entire kit back by the time you're out of it. I don't think you need to stack up 6 true damage items. 1 prophetic, and all of a sudden you're not worried about getting caught in the back line by a jungler lurking behind Fire Giant or around the Gold Fury. Baba Yaga has been a very impressive pick. Can do a whole lot if it is going to be a 6-slotted damage build, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be, especially the amount of damage that the Leviathans have built elsewhere in their draft.
You do so much that you can, like you said, afford to maybe do a little extra. Daji locked in, and Mifflin, that's one of the things we always say. You got to be careful depending on your draft. Marty, safe as long as his ult is up. Guan Yu, safe when his ult is up. But a whole lot of targets over there for the Daji.
There are CC immunity lacking from Susano. Means that he's really going to struggle throughout the early game. Could be that you feel almost forced to pick up beads in first slot. If you get Blink, I mean, Dodgy could just make it miserable to exist as a jungler on map. That said, it's not constant that you're tussling with the enemy jungler. It could be that you just play a version to that 1v1 matchup and try and do your own thing elsewhere. But Dodgy has been one of Lazra's best picks for a long time now. Has a whole lot of 1v1 potential in the late game. If you catch anybody slipping, can immediately remove him from the map. And I like the matchup from Dodgy into Martikaris for the same reasons I like it into Freya. You've got bleed damage in kit, so even if they make it up into the air, you do so much damage in the late game that you might just kill them before they can touch the ground again.
And that's, honestly, we've seen so much from it. Lazra onto a carry pick as well, so it feels like they go, I'm going to call it hand in hand. Feels like they work well together. And it's just the question. Now, a reminder for everyone who's watching, Dragons, if they 2-0 this, their plus-minus jumps up over what the Leviathans plus-minus would be. Otherwise, we get into weird topsy-turvy territory if we're starting to talk 2-1s, things like that. They win this next game, they get second seed. That feels great in their division. It feels great for them mentally, as Nika had said in the interview coming into it. So a little bit of pressure pumping on the team right now, Mifflin, to win this game, to win this set right here. Do you think they have that opportunity?
I think so. The Jade Dragons, my concern always when there is a mage support is where is the CC? Compositionally, how does that affect your 5-on-5? And the CC's there. You've got plenty. Hercules can do it. He'll burn beads on his own. Dodgy, of course, with the Powwow. A massive just bit of AoE CC, essentially 3 procs that you can pull out just about anyone through. So the Jade Dragons, I think, as far as the draft is concerned, have done themselves a lot of favors going into Game 2. It's just about execution on field, and the primary question mark, as it always is that hell out of support. Is it going to perform? Whether or not it's able to actually survive throughout that early game, major concerns. I just heard something from production.
Did you hear the same words I did?
It had to be. They got to be mistaken. I'm being informed Merlin ADC.
So Vote might be playing Season 6?
Look,
he's like 4 years, just a little bit of lag.
I mean, if it's ADC Marty on the other side, you're essentially both playing mages, just different damage types, right? So I guess it makes sense.
Well, this one has nothing to do with this game, but I just realized that the last game was the first time they won with Guan Yu for the Dragons this phase.
Good for
so
them.
That's actually pretty impressive. We'll see if they can keep up a streak like that as we jump into Game 2 between the Dragons and the Leviathans.
Yeah, that's right. Game number 2 in the Jade Dragons. Apparently, maybe trying to go with something a bit spicy here, as it is Merlin ADC for Vote. And Dardes taking the Hachiman into the mid lane. It's J-Mac, Trelly, and Doug here for game number 2. And Trelly, let's open up on the Merlin ADC, or the for Vote. Wait, hold on. What is Vote even doing on that side? Are they just role swapping? What is happening here?
Does seem like it for the time being, and because of that, I had to look towards the Rux. Remember, Dardes started Blink last time. Yeah, I would say it is a bit of a role swap. So not Merlin ADC.
No, so Merlin mid, but it's Vote playing mid.
It's simple. Dardes said, "I'm here to diff Zap. All right, I don't want to be in mid lane anymore. Get me in the lane with the 3-time." And I want to see the look on Zap's face once he looks over and sees Dardes in front of him.
Wait, hold on. Let's see what Zap has to say. Hold on.
Nothing.
He
can't even tell.
Bro, he's chewing his gum.
You know what it is? He's got the setting on that just shows God names. To go, that's Hachiman in front of me. I got no clue who that is, and I don't need to know.
Yeah, he just sees a Hachiman. I'm waiting for like that gut reaction from the Leviathans to go, wait a sec. That's Dardes over here? What's Dardes doing on my side of the map? What? Like, yeah, you got a Hachiman, but like, what's he doing over here? This ain't your lane, bro. Yeah. He still hasn't reacted. He's still just chewing away on it.
He doesn't care. He knows. He's decided, hey, no matter who's on the other side, I'm Marty. I'm clearing, and I'm staying back. Late game, I'm going to be doing big damage now, which is exactly what this character provides. I am curious to see exactly how it ends up working out if they decide to stay in this slot. It seems like that's just the call. It's a bit of a role swap here, maybe to keep things interesting. And I think that Hachiman is just so strong at the moment, so really anyone can pilot him.
Now adapting versus Lasbra's farm, I should say, over anything else. Wanted a chance against Lasbra, but Lasbra quick to get away. Wrong U now CC'd, slows. At least overthrown the Jade Dragons. The cleanse not there for Mike to help he and Dardas continue that chase through, maybe burn through that slow. Now it could be turned back around. Zap finds a big root, wrong you with a stun, but under that tower, maybe a little too risky for Leviathans. Mike and Dardas hold out.
So much sustain on both of these squads, but definitely more so for the Jade Dragons. PBI making sure to keep his team nice and healthy, so Dardas isn't going to be dying anytime soon, unless the junglers decide to get involved. But it does seem the Leviathans are getting the worst end of this trade, despite how much poke Smartikaros is putting out. Zapman has been on point hitting the poke. And it looks like Nika's got some idea that adapting's here. He keeps looking around. Yeah, I was going to say. He keeps turning around saying, there's someone near me, and I'm not going to use my driving strike until I know for sure. But here comes Lasbra. Does he want the 1v1 or does he want the blue buff invade? It looks like focused more so on the buff. But maybe just trying to do some damage to fight. Okay, I don't see why he's hiding. I mean, it's got to be called out. It happens like, hey, I just saw Lasbra. He's right next to me. It looks like he's going to go in regardless.
They can't see me because I can't see them. That's what Lasbra's probably thinking.
The 4-year-old mentality.
Except that adapting is literally staring at him just going, hey, dude, there's a dodge E there. Just, like, chill out for a little bit and you'll be good. And the Jade Dragons will just instead get themselves to taking their own blue buff. No invade this time through. Although an attempted invade on the left side of the map. Dardas and PBM wanted to get active around the purple buff, but
they hijacked some of the chest camp.
They tried. It took a little bit.
They got like the big guy and the little one, and then that's worth enough, right? Yep. If you're able to take it away, you can't take away the purple buff, of course, because it just follows you too closely, but hey, you have that little bit of farm. The question is, do Rongyou and Zapman try to make the same play? The chest camp is not available, but maybe a fight at the shield buff.
Maybe. Smalls of the shield taken by the Dragons. Purple buff. The next one. I'm with you. I wonder how long this role swap lasts. Is this maybe just the first, 10 or so levels of the game? Is this just a permanent lane swap, at least for this game throughout?
Probably the rest of the season.
Just the rest of the season? It's
yep.
Now just vote mid?
Yep.
Dardas really misses being in that lane, huh?
Yep. Dardas says, hey, I've been playing Hunters this whole time. Now I'm going to need to. Lasbra's on the way, though. He blinks to close gap, and it looks like they're going in.
He's got Palau as well. Zapman slowed down.
Where's the Trickster
Hit
Spirit?
Through. Lasbra's trying to get through, but he just
couldn't
doesn't
find it.
have it. He's just too far away. Zapman and Rongyou a little too speedy for the Jade Dragons. Able to march their way through, get out. And Rongyou didn't even have to use the Horrific to keep them even further back. This is just fast get out of dodge for the Leviathans.
I mean, Lasbra had to be like a foot away, so close to finding that Trickster Spear, being able to get aggressive. Nika uses the driving strike this time, and unfortunately, is going to get doped by the cavalry charge. Does Fine OK die? No! Does Nika even die? Yes, adapting. Forced to beat is a little bit worried about diving that tower. That is going to be the first blood, this time going the way of Fino.
Now, Dardas and Zapman boxing out over on the left side of the map. Neither of them going to fall. Sustain still there, both from Mike and Rongyou to keep their hunters alive, but man, that fight on the right-hand side, so close. Thought for a moment that Nika was going to make it out. It's because he lived with that extra sliver of HP and then adapting, forced to use his beads just to keep that chase going and get that last in-hand needed to take down and get first blood for the Leviathans. But all that first blood had gotten them, Charlie, is just tying the game back up. There's no significant bounty lead now for the Leviathans. They've just struck the gold back to even.
That they have. But Final K is going to be setting a little bit up, which is definitely a plus, especially if he rotates out early and sort of helps out the team elsewhere. Vote on the Merlin. A weird sight. Seen him over in mid lane, but it's just like a rank game. Oh man, didn't get my role. I'm gonna play mid lane. Merlin, relatively easy. Got big circles, so I'm sure he's gonna be just fine once he gets online. Because of that, haven't seen too much scrapping in mid lane. It's been a lot of adapting in Lasbra, looking towards the side lanes, which is sort of par for the course for this meta, right? If dual lane pushes up or they go for the shield buff, I'm fighting. If not, I'm looking elsewhere. And of course, Guan Yu Hercules, a matchup we've seen hundreds of times at this point by the start of this season. If they use their dash or don't have ultimates, you got a pretty good opportunity to try and find a gank over in solo lane as well. It looks like both junglers aren't really in the mood to gank. They're both coming back from base. I've just got my eyes on the rotation from Fine OK. That's probably going to be the big telltale sign that you're trying to get aggressive when you're sort of fed Guan Yu decides to make a teleport in. Your fight's going to look a little bit easier.
It's the bean skin on Bob. I was wondering what those
it's always
voice lines
the bean
were.
Skin, man.
Everybody's playing the bean skin, man. I don't know, man. It creeps me out. It's so odd seeing it. It just kind of freaks me out a little bit every time that I see it. Just seeing this little like little Smokey on a piece of bacon.
And she stirs her own beans.
Oh God, the beans turn upside down. She goes for it. Dude, this skin creeps me out, man. The house is cool, but man, just the Baba skin itself just creeps me out.
Well, at the very least, Shinto's going to be doing big damage numbers once he gets that Divine online. Should be able to dish out some good DPS. Adapting does sit around mid finally. I was going to say, he has not been around here very much. Looks like just trying to leech a wave from Shinto. And look at the duo lane. BBM and Dardas really giving it to the Leviathans at the tower line. They cannot step up. These Bastions certainly will go down. But there is a rotation. Adapting needs to try and get that slipstream onto Dardas if he wants to try and get active. Only real way you can chase down the mounted archery. And it looks like it was a bit too telegraphed. Steps over a ward. And the Jade Dragons get to retreat for free.
Now the Leviathans. Where do they maybe stamp their mark here? Because it's hard to gank Mike and Dardas. At least for Dardas specifically, has so much mobility with that ultimate, with that Aiyujutsu. Maybe, if you're adapting, do you maybe try and put a little bit more focus back on the right side, try and catch out Nika? Or maybe you think, try and stick in the mid lane, try and find a pick on this Merlin.
Wouldn't be a terrible idea. But it looks like Gold Fury
instead
is the better idea. And the Leviathans are going to get that one for absolute free. Nothing really to grab on the opposite side of them. A lot of ultimates used, but the Leviathans didn't have the luxury of knowing where everyone was like we do. And there was no one even close. The Jade Dragons were not stepping up towards that objective anytime soon. So it's going to go down. It looks like Dardas is going to dash in, is trying to get aggressive on the Zap, get some good damage. But not going to find any chase down. The Marty lives to see another day and is able to keep both of his relics up. And Final K is using the cavalry charge to try and confirm that buff. Wasn't even able to grab it. Nika actually gets the cooldown buff, so cavalry charge down, I suppose, but once the Fury's gone, you know you're not rotating anytime soon. Might as well use that ultimate if you don't need it for safety.
Mike and Dardas standing at the tier 1 tower line, getting some poke not just on Rongyu and Zap, but also that T1. Jade Dragons, it's the only spot where they're able to get maybe a little bit more aggressive is that dual lane, which is how much luxury they've been given on that side of the map. Nika uses his ultimate as well, but this one's to clear out the wave as opposed to trying to fight for the cooldown buff. Vote heading back to base. Ultimate from Dardas. Just a poke out. Man, they've got some beef with Zapman right now because it is a tower dive by Lasbra, who will quickly use the dash for himself to get out. Zapman forced out of ultimate, but still maintains the beads.
I like the play. And Dardas said, hey, if I ult, maybe I force death from above, then Lasbra can come in and get a free kill. Doesn't quite work out, so Lasbra has to force it himself. And then after that, you're not really diving anymore. There's no more kill potential. And that's going to be the end of the siege over on the left. But Adapting was hovering around. He wants to try and get aggressive, but knows exactly where Lasbra is. And it seems like Rongyu trying to create some openings. I don't love this fight for the Leviathans because here comes Lasbra.
Cleanse is there from Mike, but he doesn't have enough cleanses. A knockup from the Typhoon.
Oh,
Adapting takes down one. Lasbra now locked down on the wrong side of the map. It's the Leviathans who pick up two. Could be three. Dardas on the run. A teleport in from Rongyu. And fine, okay, but now with Nika here, no further follow-up, and Dardas will live.
And that ended up being a great call. I thought because of the wraparound play from Lasbra and the fact that Zapman didn't have ultimate, he's just going to be a sitting duck. We talked about that rotation in from Guan Yu. It could come at any moment, and it sure did come through. Guan Yu makes some big waves. Nika follows, but cannot have the same impact, a little bit late to that engage. And because of that, Leviathans end up getting their pick and losing no one in the process. And I mean, Lasbra was just chain stunned. He's got Powwow, but doesn't have the beats. The blink is not going to help you out in that situation. It was stun into death. If he was able to get up, maybe he finds a kill on the Zapman because of how low this Martikaros got, but ended up not working out. And now you're pretty far behind XP-wise. Adapting should be about to take over to level 11 with one more camp, and Lasbra just takes over to level 10. So damage-wise, isn't going to be hurting too much. The builds are exactly mirrored besides 3 transcending stacks from Adapting. But you want to hit level 12 as soon as possible. Lasbra needs that beats if he wants to be able to keep getting active.
Really wants to stay active as well. Adapting with the beads because he doesn't have CC immunity to get away from Lasbra. But have we even seen a Powwow yet, Chuck? I mean, we're 11 minutes in the game. I don't think Lasbra's hit the ultimate button at all so far.
He certainly tried to, but he got stunned out.
Yeah, maybe didn't get the optimal chance to. And when you're playing a dodge E, though, I mean, you can't be You can't be too picky and choosy with that one. Sometimes you just got to throw it out there. For now, well, maybe not needed. Pyromancer for the Leviathans.
Did the Horizon steal
Wrong,
it?
you stole it with ultimate? Are you kidding me? Now it's Mike who's going to go down. What is happening in this game, Charlie? Leviathans up 4-0, a Pyro steal, and a 3,000 gold in XP lead.
How much damage does Horizon really do? Like, that had to be like 80 damage to steal that away. That is ridiculous. And he was able to steal away the Pyromancer, and adapting gets to pick up the Runic Bomb. Not to mention getting the kill on the PBM. The Leviathan Siege 4, they're going to use that Runic Bomb to confirm a Tier 1 tower. That's going to be a large win in favor of the Leviathans. You're just shaking your head.
Doug, can we actually get a hover over Wrong You in the ultimate just to see what the actual base damage of that ultimate is? He has it at rank 1, 150. Factoring in protections, you're probably doing maybe 100 damage.
Yep.
You're telling me vote on Merlin, Lasbra on Daji, a single auto can't out-secure that?
Not to mention, it's one of the most telegraphed ults in the game.
Yeah,
they say, here we go, I'm going to land right here, I'm going to warn you, I'm going to make a big noise, and then I'm going to land. And that was still able to steal it away. Unfortunate. It happens. And in this case, a very inopportune time for the Jade Dragons to let that steal go through because they lose their Tier 1 tower after the fact. The Leviathans are essentially doing whatever they want. Remember, Zapman has been getting pushed in to his Tier 1 tower for quite some time. He's got a 2-level lead over Dardes. He's got no problem camping underneath that tower.
This is even despite the fact that he did lose his Tier 1 towers. Another rotation over that ends up getting that one for the Jade Dragons, but now it's Zapman pushing back Dardes and Mike, adapting, rotating over. May have just been enough to scare Vote from walking into this lane. Adapting really wants to find a pick here if he can, but he needs maybe Wrong You, maybe Zapman to try and step up and get that initiation going, but just too much sustain and too much safety under Tier 1. So adapting and the rest of the Leviathans will think otherwise. Potentially Fury instead. Now started up for Leviathans, and no one from the Dragons in the same zip code to try and stop this one. It's 2 Furies now for the Leviathans.
Yep, for absolute free, and once again, it's a good rotation from Final K. The presence that you need. When you've got 4 kills total and 2 of them are on your solo laner, having him AFK over in solo lane is not the play, and Final K knows that. He's been able to make it over for 2 big rotations. That one, let's be honest, the presence wasn't actually needed. But it's nice to know he cares, you know? He shows up when his team needs an objective, he heals them, he says, alright, back to farm time. And once again, adapting goes over towards Dardes. It looks like it's just going to be a shield buff invade, but he's been hovering around this dual lane for quite some time. Good poke on Dardes as well. Lasbra's lurking, but it looks like he gave up on that gank immediately and decided to dip out. How much damage do you really have underneath this tower? You've got plenty, you've got the blink, but Dardes has Aegis and that mounted archery. It would be a difficult gank to try and pull off, especially under tower for this whole time.
So now maybe Lasbra rotates back, but Leviathans are full grouping up. Shinto up against Lasbra.
That's
just
a 5-level difference.
5 levels? Bro,
Lasbra can't buy farm right now.
We always talk about Shinto's farm game, but the fact he's 5 up on Laz, that is criminal for Lasbra to have to deal with, and especially now Dardes as Wrong You walks through. Doesn't actually go for the fight. It's a 4-man stack up for both teams on the left side for a Tier 1 tower. The solo laners are off on their own, doing who knows what on the right side of the map. A Tier 1 for at least Nika does end up going down throughout all of this, but the fact that we have 8 people pushing for a Tier 1 in left, when there's no Fury up, Charlie, they're not fighting to try and gain advantage for a Fury that's still down for 2.5 minutes.
I think the bigger crime is that there's 3 level 12s on the side of the Jade Dragons at 16 minutes. That's the bigger crime. I mean, Mike, Dardes, and Lasbra are all just fighting for table scraps. They're like, please don't share. Can we please not 3-man split the chest
Don't
camp?
throw away the napkin, bro. There might still be food on
Yeah,
there.
I really need some extra farm. Maybe we can eat the Baba Bean skin or something. But the Pyromancer started up. And it looks like Nika's presence is enough to try and slow this one down.
Beats from adapting. Shinto, though, on the way. Pyromancer to the Dragons. But what about the fight after? Nika locked in place. Silent, so he can't even walk through. Ult from Shinto. Now dropped through, but how much damage is he doing? Well, quite a bit to PBM. Even that's only with 2 damage items. Final K, credit for the kill there. Wrong You up in the sky, cuts off the path of voting Wrong You as Zapman rains hell from above on top of the Dragon. Shinto with his first kill of the game, but part of now 4 of the 6. The Leviathans controlling this map.
And all the while, Lasper's just doing blue buff. I mean, he had an opportunity to rotate, but he's like, bro, I'm level 13. What do you want me to do? There's no damage in the world that Daji can provide at level 13 to the Leviathans. It's just not going to happen. So it looks like a free Fire Giant coming through. All the while, Dardes is trying to get some extra farm over on the left side of the map. This lane swap, unfortunately, not working out here for the Jade Dragons. I suppose I don't think it matters if the roles were swapped. It wouldn't matter too much. They just don't have pressure, right? Dardes was able to push that man under the tower, but XP wise, farm wise, it's just not there. You need items to be able to mount comebacks to be able to fight, and Shinto is an absolute threat on this map. He's got 3k gold in hand. He's gonna get a full item. Probably a full Charon's coin or a Soul Reaver. Yep, going to be a full Soul Reaver there for the Baba Yaga. If you thought he was swinging before, wait till we see that ultimate now.
Yeah, he did what? Upwards of 50% of Mike's health on ult with only 2 damage items. Now has that third one to slam through as well. Man, Shinto's going to be hitting pretty hard as this next team fight does go around. Damage for Mike in second item. Not going for defense. Look, after I just got chunked by Shinto.
He said Shinto didn't hit me that hard. I didn't chrono spend it.
Look, after I'm getting hit by Shinto that hard, I'm building a dedicated magic defense item up against him. There isn't a true dedicated magic defense because there's, well, 4 physical on the side of the Leviathans. And Mike's saying, you know what, maybe that's really not all that threatening.
This tower's getting shredded.
Jade Dragons, man, they're dealing with that tower, wrong you. Gonna try and pull the minion wave in for a Phoenix dive through. 3 into the Leviathans, but the Dragons have all backed in. Laspra goes in, but he's forcible to Palau instantly. Pulls in 2, but now it is Zapman in the sky. Not enough damage to take out Laz, but plenty for Vote. The Leviathans, they take out 1, a left side Phoenix, and a retreat call now as Fire Giants still on their ways for another minute. Final K going back to stop at least Dardes, who was trying to split push, but
you didn't have to go back, bro.
Does not have enough damage for that.
My man had 3 items and one of them's crit. He was not killing that Phoenix anytime soon. If anything, that tier 2 tower took way too long to go down. Final K does teleport in, but you get that left side burst, so that's going to be well worth it here for the Leviathans. Breaking the base pre-19 minutes is an absurd pace, one that is matched only sometimes by the Oni Warriors. So the Leviathans certainly have domination here on the map currently. Only 1 more tier 2 tower to go for on the right side of the map, and they've got that Fire Giant buff for a little bit longer. They've got enough time if they would like to try and group up and go for a push. Not even because of the FG for 30 seconds, but because who's going to stop them? The damage, unfortunately, just is not there. Anytime Zapman shows up, he's doing 60% of a carry's HP. Lasper almost died before he got up into Palau just because of the burst that Marty provides. I'm thinking there's a lot of threats here on the side of the Leviathans, and literally 0 answers. There has not been a kill on the side of the Jade Dragons.
I mean, outside of realistically, Charlie, I mean, outside of the scrapping in the dual lane, first 8 or so minutes, have we even really seen a threat on the Leviathan's HP bar at this point? Have any of them dropped under like 30-40% in the last, let's say, 14-15 minutes of play at this point? It really just feels like the Jade Dragons can't even get the damage out there to put them low, whether it be the sustain from Wrong You and Final K. Any kind of healing that Zapman has for himself, Shinto's passive, just feels like the Leviathans are under no threat of HP.
Yep. The Jade Dragons got a Pyromancer once. That was the threat. And it was more so, oh, we're going to pick it up, we're going to 50-50.
Still in his pocket.
And then try and run away. Yeah,
he still has
Mike will be using that defensively, I am almost sure. It is going to be for a knock-up, or it's going to be 30 gold next time he wants to buy a ward. Doesn't seem like there's too much potential. And it looks like Shinto wants to go for a solo kill, but here comes Horth. And actually, you're bringing the whole squad, Mike. I don't think you're making it out of this one.
Ooh, Vote. No shot he gets out of there. Zapman takes down 1. It's a kill on the right side of the map for the rest of the Leviathans. Dardes on the run with the Hachiman. Jade Dragons just cannot buy a fight on any side of the map. They can't get farm. They can't get kills.
Oh, he's going to be on a ward.
Lasbro wants to pick Zapman, but Zapman spots him out. Here's a Pal Lao. Zapman will beads, which I honestly don't think he even needed to. But he is keeping him busy on the left side of the map. So that way the rest of the Leviathans can start the Fire Giant. Might need a little bit of assistance from Zapman to help shred this one down a bit faster, but Leviathans can take their second fire of the game, just shy of 22 minutes. And there's nothing the Jade Dragons can do. I mean, Charlie, so far, they've been goose-egged this game.
Yep, not a lot of damage. I guess, I was going to say Lasbra hasn't done much, but if you want to look at the other damage, Adapting hasn't either. They're both sitting at the lower end of these charts because the junglers have not been getting too involved. Dardas once again split pushing, trying to hit level 20, which means this right side Phoenix is going to be a bit of a disadvantage here. Wrong, he doesn't have ultimate yet, so going to the skies with a minion wave, not going to be an option, but fine, okay. He's showing off how tanky he is. He just surges forward. Just might as well walk through. I can always heal off any sort of poke damage that comes my way.
Where's he going?
Dardas has pushed up that wave heavily, and Lasbra, you think he wants to fight?
Where's he going?
He's got 3 items, man. He doesn't want to fight.
You got Powwow, you got beads off of Zapman. Walk up, hit 4, hit Zapman, and pray to God he doesn't use ultimate at that point.
Pray to God, yeah. Maybe his keyboard gets unplugged.
PBM now under fire. Final K missed the stun. Zapman now in the sky. This is the chance. Lasbra, get in. Never mind.
I can assure you he is not going in.
You missed your window of opportunity.
There was no opportunity, man. His one hope is that the carries unplug their keyboards right as he decides to go in. Lasbra does not have the damage to follow up. Left side Phoenix is spawning in. And this is the good part, though. You are able to get some itemization online. You are able to get some farm. And now that left side Phoenix is up, it can be a 5v5 underneath Phoenix, and Wrong UC just forward.
Wrong U dashes back out, though. Fine, okay. He's got heal along with Wrong U, who can now reduce Wrong U's heal cooldown as well. Leviathan's just keeping up the pressure on right side. Blizzard off the mark. Mike does get poked out a little bit by Shinto on this Baba Yaga. 4 full damage items in, plus his prophetic. He's tanky. He hits hard. Well, it's a 300. Dissuade you from that. Wrong U goes in with Adapting. It's a pull in by Adapting. A push by Nika. Beads now away from Adapting. Lasbra goes in. This is the chance that Lasbra needs, but he gets shut down by Shinto. 1-for-1 trade. It's a big one for the Jade Dragons, but
left side Phoenix drops.
From the Leviathans are keeping them here. Vote tries to pull himself away from this fight, but realizes that Phoenix is as good as gone. And it's only half HP on the one on right.
Yeah, you're going to be happy with the trade, jungle for jungle, but once again, Wrong UC just forward, and he's got some good damage.
Goes right on top of Dardas, and so does Fine Okay. He'll find the stun onto just Nika. Vote forced out of the fight, just away from Zapman's damage. Wrong U half HP. Nika trying to get some damage through. Does push Zapman under the Phoenix. Zapman rooted there for a moment, but he will be able to get himself back out. This right side Purge, Charlie, has not gone down yet. If there's anything to be said about the Jade Dragons, it's the tenacity around the right Phoenix.
They're scrappy. They're going to keep this bird alive. The Leviathans played it well. They stalled out so the left Phoenix was guaranteed on a timer, and it does end up dropping. Trading Adapting for Lasbra is definitely a trade the Jade Dragons are happy with. They get their first kill of the game.
No goose egg.
No goose egg. That much has been confirmed. But I would say positives. Number 1, that siege didn't look great from the Leviathans. There was a lot of aggression. They did not use to the skies the way I would have hoped, where you're able to take a full minion wave, sort of juke around, maybe you go mid, maybe you go right. And in this case, Lasbra should have some time to try and get farm, try and get level 20. He has been able to avoid fighting as much as possible to try and get online. Daji, it is just very difficult, as we just saw, to try and get to the back line, do damage, and get up into the powwow when the carries are so much further ahead than you. I mean, Zapman just bursts. Of course, Shinto's got that same level of burst. And because of that, Lasbra says, hey, man, I want Bumba's Hammer. I want an extra item online. Maybe a Magi's Blessing, something in that last slot. Probably it's going to be full glass cannon. But extra farm. That's the name of the game here. It's not Enhanced Fire Giant. I'd be baffled if the Jade Dragons walk up past their green buff at any point, unless it's on the left side of the map where they know there are no Leviathans even close.
Lasbra will clear out some of these lanes, but because that bird did fall during the last siege once again, means that it's just going to be a constant pour of minions. Leviathans will go for their 3rd Fire Giant of the game, and for the 3rd time, there is no response from the Jade Dragons to get up there to do so. Now we'll come down to that base defense. It's successful on the right. They kept the Leviathans out. Maybe that be because the Leviathans were trying to go for some extra picks as opposed to the Phoenix potentially. Maybe a bit too early for some of the damage on that bird, but Zapman nearing full build, a Titan's Bane, the last thing to likely be worked on here for him. Jade Dragons will have to hold out on the defense once more, but it's a bit of a slow grouping of the Leviathans to try and rally back through. In fact, both the frontliners pushing down the left side of the map because the minion waves got there, but Leviathans are not hasty with this buff at the moment. They are taking their sweet time to get up to the base.
They certainly are. They can do no wrong for now. As long as they know that, number one, the Jade Dragons are underneath Phoenix and they're not going anywhere. They want to make sure that if they mess up this siege like last time, because it's not enhanced, the Fire Giant is not giving them that extra buff they so desperately need for their siege, that they at the very least get that left side Phoenix. So that's the reason Final K is going to push up that wave. But now Rongyu's got ultimate. Remember, he used it last time aggressively. Now he's got to the skies. The issue now becomes how close these Phoenixes are together. You're going to be able to tell pretty much immediately which bird they're going to, unless they decide to go up and over and go for the end call, which doesn't seem like a Leviathan's play to make. But Final K is already in the backline. He has pushed that wave in, and he's going to be going for ganks at any moment.
Nika is getting poked pretty heavily by Zapman here. This Acid Rain, just even stepping in it, is doing a decent bit even to the frontliners of the Jade Dragons. Look at that explosion damage that Zapman's got. Even Dardis isn't safe walking up anywhere near Zapman at this point, who's just constantly pelting out those abilities, dealing damage to the Jade Dragons. Final K waiting on the left side of the map, getting these minions pushed back in. Left Bird is here. An ultimate in for Ronggyu under the Phoenix, but it's just Ronggyu there. Zapman versus Nika. Puts Nika down to half HP. Sustain is there from Mike to keep him alive. Left side Bird dropped once more by Final K. Now he can rejoin the fight. Forces Mike even further back. And it's Final K still under the Phoenix. Mid Bird. Not enough defense by the Jade Dragons. That one goes down. Zapman to the sky, but Lasmer on the paddle out. Can he pull anybody in this time? It might just be Ronggyu only as Final K melting to the backline with Shinto 2 removed from the map. It is a double for the mid laner. Nika goes down. It's a double for Final K, and Dardes has to sit under the fountain as the Leviathans tie up the set.
What a beautiful horse there, as well as the follow-up damage from Shinto. I thought he was about to get a triple kill just with the cavalry charge alone. It was slow and calculated, right? The Leviathans had a massive lead. They knew they were going to be able to siege that left side Phoenix consistently, but they kept staying slow, waiting for the fire minions. They played everything as slow and calculated as possible, and that's what you got to do. When this much is on the line, you got to make sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's, and that's exactly what the Leviathans did. They dropped one kill. That's a smart, calculated game there for the Levi's.
And once they drop that one kill, it's an immediate return fire onto that same player right after there. So Nika coming up with the only kill, at least for the Dragons in game number 2. But the Leviathans, I mean, that was just a case of Leviathans playing the game of Smite and felt like the Jade Dragons just kind of loaded up into the lobby. I'm not entirely sure if it was all because of the role swap that happened there, but
not all because, no.
It felt like there was just maybe a disconnect with the team with that role swap here in game 2.
Yep, didn't seem like anyone really wanted to group up and fight. They really couldn't. They were so far behind. When we looked and saw 3 level 12s, I was like, this game might just be over. There's no way everyone is this far behind, whereas Shinto's level 17. It can't happen.
Yeah, the Atlantis Leviathans able to run away with game number 2 with not much fight back from the Jade Dragons. Unwilling to step up to objectives, unwilling to really fight the Leviathans outside of their base. And Leviathans able to break this one through, tie up the set, and keep this one alive. Can Leviathans bounce it back and make the full sweep, or are the Dragons going to try and find themselves another win? Find out all that in game number 3 right after this.
I don't do this often, you caught me off guard. All of my friends said you moved out west. You tell me stories underneath sunsets. Could it be more than just one night? I'm bad at pretending, you know I'll be true. Sunday mornings and midnight lights turn into songs that you watch me write. Stole your sweater on that night. You took a picture, keep by my bedside. So you're mine when you're gone, baby, please don't be long. I got my ticket to the west side. You say my name with your accent, makes me remember how much I missed you. Hope you're planning to stay for a million days. You'll be my summer in December. Hey boy, trust my intuitions always. I'm not superstitious, I got lucky. Stole your heart and it was mine for the taking. It was mine for the taking. It was mine for a million days. In a million ways. Stole your heart and I got lucky. Stole your heart and it was mine in a million ways. For a million days.
Well, it's tied up here. Game one, the Dragons, again, back and forth. That's the conversation. Taking objectives, fights, going opposite ways for both teams. Game two, it's about the opposite of the opposite, right? All of a sudden, you're looking at it as just dominant, dominant, dominant from the Leviathans. And Mifflin, it's honestly, I'm going to use your own quote here before you can say it. Sometimes these are the hardest ones to break down because you watch these and you just go, yeah, they just kind of beat you, huh?
Basically. Fortunately, there are some things to sink your teeth into in a game like this.
Some good meat on there.
Yeah. Roster swap. Poor K.
Yeah.
Like, why did that happen? Hell support, which hasn't been doing so well,
Why'd
gone
that
back
happen?
towards that, and you wanted to do both at the same time. I think there's going to be some issues there, and the Jade Dragons certainly run into that. And the Atlantis Leviathans, facing up against a Jade Dragons that are clearly experimenting, said you should take us a little bit more seriously. Bring the stuff that's been working. And they simply dominate on map. Zatman's presence, I think, significantly higher than Dardez's. Votes, of course, struggles. Whereas Shinto flourishes on this tanky Baba Yaga build. Things just went south for the Jade Dragons. And, you know, I'd been thinking about it, and I'd asked Brighter Minds, and I'd said, man, look, what's going on? Mike's Hell support just has not been getting wins. What do you think it is? And they had said to me, and they will go unnamed, you know, Mike's pretty good on Hell. He lands his abilities. The heals are connecting. It's not a mechanics issue. Positioning about as well as he always does. Perhaps it's the Jade Dragons as a whole that don't necessarily know how to play with Hell, or maybe it's just not something that their play style tends to favor. And if that's the case, I'd argue still just as much so as if Mike couldn't play Hell. You probably shouldn't.
Yep.
If the rest of your team doesn't quite synergize with it. So game 3 for the Jade Dragons. You're hoping for a bit more of a return to standard. I'd argue every time Mike's on a Guardian, things look significantly better. Maybe you want to go there first for the Leviathans. They'd love to run back exactly what we just saw, which was minute 1 to minute done dominance.
I mean, look, 505, 218, 506, 0010, 206. When you have one death and it's on the guy that's going to be diving the deepest, who is also squishy, yeah, that's always going to work out well for you. The Horus looks really solid. Something that I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen as often, right? Horus has been a little more devoid the last few days. And I think we just got to see a pretty good showcase that he still has a place somewhere in this meta right now. Hell, I mean, you had mentioned it, the healing number's still there, right? Able to put up 8,000. You combine that with the damage. You're in the 17K. You're
numbers
looking
look fine.
actually really great. Like you said, the numbers look fine. It has to be the team around it at that point. And there's definitely a lot of conversations I know that I've seen around about the Dragons team, this core specifically as well, over this phase. A lot of highs, a lot of lows to match them, right? Very high peaks, very low valleys. We'll see if we're going to get a peak or a valley here in Game 3. Dragons this time will be first pick, so Leviathans will, for once, have to figure out what the Dragons are trying to value the most. Marty went first in Game 2. Hell went first in Game 1. I do not think we're seeing Hell first pick this time around. What kind of gods? Are you willing to let anybody through here if you're the Leviathans to ensure you get some really solid picks?
I think if I'm on the Leviathans, I'm seriously considering letting through Vamana in particular. Just haven't seen Vamana too much from the Jade Dragons so far this year, and when they have had it, hasn't had the most success.
Yeah.
Also, if I'm on the Leviathans, I am ensuring that Marty doesn't get through. But it's the Jade Dragons that take it out themselves. That double hunter composition for the Jade Dragons has been one of the best looks at this team so far this year. I thought largely facilitated by the Marty, and in first pick, could have vied and jockeyed for it. Instead, they decide to ban it out themselves. I wonder what the thought process is there. What is it that the Jade Dragons are fishing for in first slot? If it's the Hell, I'll lose my mind, Gore.
And I want to emphasize, not in a good way. Not a oh my god, I'm going crazy, I can't believe they got it. How would you feel about a Yamoja?
I would
love that.
I'm great with Yamoja. Good call. Great with Yamoja. I think just a consistent support that finds pressure, has CC, restricts the relics that the Leviathans can consider, also dissuades them from going towards gods that are lacking in mobility. You want a standard leap or teleport or something that operates similarly to deal with that River's Rebuke. Yamoja doesn't have any particularly poor matchups either. I can get behind this one for the Jade Dragons.
Yeah, solid pick. We've seen it perform banned in games 1 and 2. It's something that Wrong You really likes, Mike really likes. Both of them have looked impeccable on this pick in the past. So I'm happy. I'm always just happy to see more Yamoja. That's just one of my favorite gods to, I guess in general, just to watch. We'll see if it can hold up to that. Other side, Hachiman. Potentially Horus alongside that. H gods this year, man. It's been the Horus, now Hachi, Hebo, Hell, even if we have some mixed opinions on the last one. A lot of the H is Hercules. up there as well. And I'm actually going to mention the Hercules. Feels like we haven't been seeing him as much. With Guan Yu off the table, though, it feels like he might be an easy slot in for one of these teams.
Could be. I wouldn't hate it for the Jade Dragons. Wouldn't hate it for the Leviathans either. I think, if anything, the Leviathans likely will snap it up if the Jade Dragons don't. Hercules is just a very strong pick. I know he's seen some nerfs to his cooldowns recently, but still very consistent, very survivable, and finds a lot of success around these objective dances. The non-committal initiation, I think, one of the primary strengths of Hercules, as well as his safety in lane. If you want to go a bit more damage-oriented in first slot, we've seen some Golden Blade Hercules. You're susceptible to ganks, but by the time you get to second slot, usually a dedicated defense item, very difficult for the jungler to get involved in that lane. So we'll see. Something that I thought we'd see a good deal more of in this set, Gore, was the tier. I thought tier really would be top of the meta right now with some of the changes he's received. Lawbringer now in defensive stance, giving over a stun, meaning that you got just one more way to burn through beads on a god that's already just amazing at doing that.
Yeah.
The Jade Dragons, they've taken notice. CERN and tier for their second round of picks. A top tier hunter and tier himself.
Worth mentioning that all the games the Leviathans have played against the Emojo they've lost.
Oh,
this phase.
That's scary.
This phase. Gonna make sure that one gets out there. The side note is, it was 2 games and it was the very first set of the season. So, does that hold as much weight in your mind? I guess in week 5, I'm probably gonna say no. But it is something to be worried about. Definitely something to deal with. Baba Yaga, good escape though, right? Survivability when it comes down to it, and we've seen do really well, and specifically do really well for Shinto. Yesterday played it in Game 2, got a win with it. Just now played it in Game 2, got a win with it. And so just on the immediate polls, it feels really solid. You okay with him going back to this?
Yeah, no complaints here. I think Baba Yaga is properly evaluated right now in the league. If anything, maybe slightly undervalued in that she makes her way through a lot of these drafts. Just damage output, safety, you've got it all. They're joking. That's not real. That's smoke and mirrors, and I won't fall for it.
I might, man. I don't know. They're suffering for a long time. You know what? Let's talk about the bans while they figure out their lives. Fenrir, Agni, banned out by the Leviathans. A little shot over towards mid, a little shot towards the jungle. The last 2 roles the Dragons are trying to pick up. What do they not want to deal with from last, but what do they not want to deal with in the mid lane? And then over for the Dragons, Susano, the King Arthur, which I kind of wanted to ask you about because you've not been too big on King Arthur in general. And I don't think we've seen a lot of people. I mean, fine, okay, we'll play him every now and then, and he's a good King Arthur player, but like, does that feel right in this composition and in this meta that King Arthur's eating a ban?
I'm not big on King Arthur right now. I feel like when bruiser items were taken out of the game, King Arthur was essentially taken out of the game as well. Just doesn't have quite enough power on his own. Bluestone's eaten some nerfs too, so overall output lacking. And he's not incredibly tanky. Feels like hunters in current year are just really good at dealing with the front line, and King Arthur used to zone with damage. It was, I do just enough damage, you can't ignore me. I'm not certain that's the case anymore. Spicy picks continue for the Jade Dragons. Chronos locked in. There's your late game hyper carry potential, the ability to one-shot Phoenixes, one-shot towers. A team in the Jade Dragons that have struggled to close out games. We've seen it a couple times this set where they're able to approach those Phoenixes, but it takes them maybe a little bit longer than they would like. That's how you shore it up right there. Chronos simplifies that. Get him in range, get him a Polynomicon, and he'll 2-tap a bird.
Nemesis, I'm going to talk about instead. I'm going to pick that of all the things that are on the screen right now.
That's not a Shiva, right? That's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, it surely can't, right? The Hera was hovered for a while and then not locked in.
It would be Shiva support? No, it could be Shiva solo as well.
But does Shiva, like, in this... I mean, 6 seconds of CC immunity is kind of nice, but, like, is that... What else has he got going for him now?
He's got consistent displacement. It's been a while. He's got consistent displacement. I would still say that Shiva has one of the, if not the best, level 2 in the game. You've got double knock-up, pull land, plus attack speed stem if you leveled your first and second ability, and a pseudo no-play zone, the dot damage, persistent damage on field from that first ability. Not so crazy that you're thinking, I can't walk through it. It's not like a Diamond Pillar, but it does start to stack up a little bit. Very, very strong early game bully, but 6 seconds of CC immunity, I think, not so great, considering during that 6 seconds you're putting up maybe 500 in healing or damage,
Yeah.
and that's a late game at level 20.
Yeah, it's a very, I don't know. It's been a sad time for him since his release. Haven't gotten to see a whole lot. And instead, it's going to be a slot into something that we're used to seeing Mifflin. The Hercules, one that I, again, am floored with how far down he goes sometimes, considering the performances we have seen out of this god. Locked in at the very end for the Leviathans. And that's kind of, I think, again, a really big point. You know, slightly over 50% win rate across the league. Nothing too crazy, but, like, for a guy who, coming into this week, was tied for second in most picks with Guan Yu and Merlin, it still just blows my mind that he's going 10th here and certainly maybe about to put on a clinic.
Hey, look, there's been a lot of meta shifts almost every single week of the SPL.
Yeah,
Massive patches, things that change, priority lists start to change up as well. So Hercules still good, but other gods starting to match up with his output. So I think makes sense that he's gone a bit to the wayside in some of these drafts. That's not to say that he isn't still amazing. He absolutely is. And I think probably the best selection the Atlantis Leviathans could have made in that slot. You got a little bit more initiation, everything we had talked about at the top when we had hypothesized that it could be a top 3 selection. A lot of sustain, a lot of ability to survive in lane, good pressure throughout the early game as well. And can match that early kill potential that Tier has. Anybody in the solo lane that has wild displacement has the potential to find first blood just because step out of line, you're in my tower, right? And that's true of Tier, and it's true of Hercules on the other side. I like both these drafts a whole lot. My concern, though, for the Leviathans is how are you going to shut down this Chronos? Who's going to kill the Chronos consistently? Do you have the burst to deal with them through Rewind? If you don't feel like you do, does that restrict the Hachiman where you almost feel like he has to build crit so that you do have that one-shot potential? I'm not so certain. The Atlantis Leviathans, though, I think, can at least lean on the fact that their team fight is incredibly strong. Whereas the Jade Dragons, their team fight will be really strong, just a little bit later in the game.
I'm curious, I guess maybe how you just feel about team comps, right? We're talking about it. Dragons, you know, going into this, it was very emphatically pointed, but they needed a 2-0 if they were going to topple second place. That's not happening anymore for them. But at this point, and as Nika had mentioned in the interview, a win really would mean a ton for their mentality, especially as you're going in towards the playoffs. Also might help shake some mentals up, right? If you're the Warriors, I don't think you're shook by the tweet that Zap made. In fact, I think Panatom clapped back at him on Twitter, but having that mentality, maybe it'd be a nice for a win here. We'll see if the Dragons can do it up against the Leviathans, or the Leviathans will get 2 back-to-back here to win out the set. We'll find out with J-Mac and Chelly in Game 3.
That's right. It's game number 3. Jade Dragons and Atlantis Leviathans for their final game of the regular season. The set all comes down to this one. Atlantis Leviathans, if they can notch this one, it's a 4th win for them in this phase. The Jade Dragons looking for their 3rd set win. They can find a game here. Game number 1 was back and forth, Trell. I mean, it was a constant battle around these objectives. Just came to maybe a couple of missed calls, a couple of missteps by the Leviathans at the end game, at least for the Dragons to push through and find that one. And on the opposite side, it was complete dominance in game number 2 for the Dragons, or I should say for the Leviathans, up against the Dragons. And now as we jump into game number 3, and as highlighted there by Doug, I mean, we start there. War Flag for PBM in first slot as opposed to our more traditional starter items.
Yeah, we can start with the War Flag. It's a pickup that we've seen a few times now. Again, it's great if you have auto attackers. That's pretty much the way I see it. And if you have good auto attackers on your team, you're going to get value out of the War Flag. I just want to talk about number 1. Dardes has Blink again. Remember, Adapting got first blooded last time in game number 1 because of this Blink. I'm assuming it's going to be double Blink right here at level 2. I want to be watching that aggression, but it looks like even more aggression towards Zapman as well.
Zapman for first blood. It doesn't matter what the Blink is, and then it's another one in mid.
Yep.
The Blink again, it's catching the Leviathans off guard every single time. The Jade Dragons roll through the first 30 seconds of the game and strike 2 kills, 1 in duo, 1 in mid.
Okay, if you think about it, this was the long con. This was the Jade Dragons plan all along, right? Like, we're gonna win game 1, all right? Then we're gonna be some silly little goofy little guys and roll swap, and you're gonna forget about Dardes starting Blink. I mean, that was what? That was like an hour ago. They forgot about game number 1. Then they swap back, and they say, hey, right at level 2, we're coming at you again. At least this time, Adapting said, I'm not stepping up. Good luck, Shinto. You know, if you're gonna be the one who walks forward, go ahead. Which, by the way, he should never die there. I think the Baba Yaga play is always start your potion, you get one in your pocket, you get a second one, and then you get your dash at level 2. You never die if you make that play, but I think he probably put a point in his one, and because of that, got punished for it, and now you're at a really big deficit here. And it looks like, yep, didn't get blast off, and that's the reason he falls down.
Now PBM zoning, at least away with Wrong You, Adapting and Lazarus both show up for the shield buff. And it's going to be at least the end of the skirmish there. Lazarus does get the buff for himself, puts a little bit of poke towards Adapting, maybe scares the Leviathans back to tier 1. But I think the important thing here, Charlie, is not just the first blood that the Dragons get, but I think maybe more important with that is what they do with this pressure. I mean, Dardes, or I should say Lazarus getting the kill, but Dardes being a part of that one. PBM getting the kill as opposed to Vote there should help escalate the build for both of these players. But it's what do you get beyond there? You know, is it buff invades, trying to steal the chest camp maybe away? You got to see what the Dragons do with the lead that they started with.
That is the question. And, you know, PBM, when he gets a lead like this, tends to build towards damage. Yamoja can dish out a ton of damage, especially if you're hitting that ultimate consistently. Adapting's here for a gank, but isn't going to have too much success. Nika on the tier with the blue stone. He's got his breastplate online, or is working towards it. This should be just fine. And actually, I don't mind their attempt at a fight here, but it looks like Final K is going to scoop the buff away, so Lazarus has to confirm, and he doesn't get it. Final K will be able to confirm the blue buff invade. And Nika had Blink there. I think they could have tried to fight that. Maybe worried about the shield from Adapting and how much healing could have came through. Just decided to let that one go.
That man's got to drag the purple buff all the way back to well behind the tier 1 tower just to keep it away from PBM at this point. Because we've been seeing a lot of this on purple invades where you might not start the buff, but you wait for them to, and you try and snag it away, maybe try and force them to pull it under tier 1 tower to lose out on some of those benefits. It's just all Jade Dragons here in the duo lane. Level 5 for Vote, so access to ultimate now available, but not going to pull the trigger on that one. Going to hold on to it. Maybe a more opportune time for the Dragons.
Now that's going to be the end of the aggression for now. I do have my eyes towards Lazarus because you talked about what do you do with that lead. Pele's level 5, has Blink available. And it looks like Vote's going to go in on the Zapman, pull the beads, and there's the Pyro Lightning. And it looks like one more shot will do it, but the stun!
Stun from Wrong You is
no
there.
Shot.
Stun from Mike, just a little too shy. Dow gets access to ultimate. Now Wrong You's caught on the wrong side of the wave. Vote's got to get a couple more in-hands to do it, and they will get the job done. But now Adapting shows up, gets the slice dice, but Knockman's there by Lazarus to bail out for Mike. The Jade Dragons now up 3-0.
Yeah, Wrong You gets his money's worth there. Wow, Zapman should have 100% died. Lazarus had one more auto attack, but gets stunned out just enough to let Zapman get out of range of that volcanic lightning. And there was no more range to confirm that kill. Ends up dying for the play, but as a support, sometimes that's a trade you got to make. To keep your ADC alive, you got to go in real deep. Speaking of Lazarus, Shadow Drinker, item number 1.
What?
Not what I expected, but hey, I'm excited to see how it works. Maybe he gets some early kills, start zooming around. This item I've seen built on Vamana at the end of solo lane builds. And that's pretty much it. So I'm excited to see how Lazarus tries to use it here in this game.
And Loki's in my casual games.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about the SPL.
Right. SPL.
Your casual Lokis are not in my data pool, unfortunately.
Maybe fortunately they're not in the data pool at this point, but we'll see what Lazarus can do with this item. I mean, decent stats on it. The passive is something we haven't really got to see mostly utilized after. And Adapting, he'll barely be able to get through ultimate off the mark there, but
he's drinking shadows.
The stout,
look at him
moving. He's so fast. He got to blue buff a little bit faster.
That was
man.
it.
That was the tech for it. He wanted to get to blue buff just a little quicker. Got lost it last time. Thought maybe Final K could steal it, but no. The Jade Dragons up 4-0 and a tier 1 tower at 6 minutes. Even faster than that, the Jade Dragons, they've stepped on the gas pedal here in game number 3. Even Dardes is playing up, but Dardes might be punished for this. Oh, never mind. He's got rewind and a blink in by Adapting to try to stop, but the stun misses. Dardes just going to fight for the rest of his life there, and Shinto puts him down for the first kill for the Leviathans.
Yeah, Vote said, this is what happens when I'm in the duo lane, Zap. You better watch out. Tower goes down, and it looks like even more pressure on the left side of the map, but Adapting's making the rotation. Is it for shield buff, or is it for a gank? Possibly neither. He walks over, he hears that the duo lane is still around and decides to retreat. The Jade Dragons, a breakneck pace for game number 1. just about everyone's got some form of farm or some extra because of the kills. Nika's got an assist, Lasbra 2-0-1, and unfortunately Darda is the first death of the game for the Jade Dragons. But this Kronos is still level 9. Should be just fine getting towards that late game. He's been making use out of the blink, pretty much just using it to try and engage. I've been liking these blink mid laners. I will say the Hebos in particular is one that I haven't seen too much value on, but Kronos has that rewind. You essentially get a second life and more stuns. So that can help set up, it can help peel for you. And they've been making use out of it. It's been 2 first bloods because of Dardas picking this up.
And then that follow-up kill by Mike in mid, or over in duo as well. Used that horrific emblem, got beads. Maybe made use of what little war flag passive he had coming out. Because remember, started that triple camp start and then immediately beeline to the enemy team. And maybe that's the value that you get from that war flag. Clearing out those buff camps and trying to start out early.
More like war frag.
Yeah.
Because they're going in. They want that early damage.
We'll have to see how that war flag works out in late game. Last time Mike picked it up, felt like it really didn't get a whole lot of value. Talking to some of the players outside of the game, thinks that it could have been a good frag style of starter item, but never really sieged with it. Jade Dragons, though, they'll take a Gold Fury. No time for the Leviathans to group up for that one. The Jade Dragons have really expedited the pace of game number 1 because we are 3,000 gold up, just shy of 8 minutes. Shutdown of Labs would be good, but Ultimate is there. He's out. Vote used the beads, gets root onto 1. Use the ultimate, now he gets beads from Zapman, but Mike is there with the wall to bail him out and a Riptide for himself. The Jade Dragons are out.
You gotta love the support masterclass we've been seeing. Darda is now getting dope, but he's gonna head back. Just kidding. Back for a second, and then back over to mid lane. Yeah, Mike definitely saves his duo there. Vote was gonna be in some big trouble, but the chase down is stopped immediately by the River's Rebuke. Shinto is still pumping out damage numbers, though. This Baba Yaga is a threat with that Spear of Desolation. You can see how much poke is just coming Darda's way, or Mike, whoever decides to step up into range of Shinto. Pretty much immediately regrets it. But that lead is coming from somewhere, right? You look throughout the entirety of the Leviathans, and it is the duo lane that is falling behind. That's the reason the Dragons are so far ahead. And now Lasbra, I was going to say, is trying to get aggressive, but is actually running away here. Is wrong use to the sky. Going for some peel. He's just going to scare away the rest of the Jade Dragons.
Yeah, Bo notices the crash in. He dashes away. The Jade Dragons maintain their lead in duo. The 1 level up for Dardas and mid as well. Shinto trying to keep back up in pace with farm. Getting that kill earlier definitely helped him out. Trying to keep pace. Lasbra goes back in against Zapman. Zapman's got no ultimates, got no beads, and that is a kill for Vote. Though hand gifted to him by the damage output of Lasbra.
Unfortunate. Lasbra missed out on the Shadow Drinker passive. Wanted that kill. Not gonna be able to grab it, but in this case, still just fine grabbing an assist. And Vote being ahead is a big deal. We know what Zap can do when he's given some space, when he's given a lead. And we also know what he can do when he gets this pressure on, because Zapman has an internal passive. It's not real, but everyone knows of it. When he gets this far down, when he gets camped this hard, there's always some form of a comeback. But
putting a curse on the Dragons?
I'm not putting a curse on the Dragons. That curse already exists. Everyone knows about the Zap passive.
You're just reminding the world of it.
Yep, and 0-2 is not too bad, but if Zap gets to like 0-4, I'd watch out if I were the Jade Dragons.
The Leviathans may be banking on the passive to kick in for Zapman. They're going to need it, especially up against what the Jade Dragons have started this game out with. 5 versus 1 on the kill department to start things out. Adapting and Wrong You trying to go for an invade or maybe hunt for a kill in the Jade Dragons jungle. Shinto fairly safe on the Baba Yaga. Shouldn't run into too much risk, even up against Dardas and Mike, unless one of the stuns were to connect and start setting things up. Nika under a little bit of threat here. Will lose out at least on his bastions, but Final Cane adapting not enough to threaten this tier just yet. Jade Dragons sitting comfy on the right side of the map. Lasbra and Vote even standing by just in case things got a bit dicey over in solo lane for Nika.
Yep, but Vote's here. Tells me Pyromancer's going to be pulled immediately, and that is the call. Wrong You's got some good CC, and Shinto's here. Remember, this Baba Yaga is swinging, and that damage is shown there in PBM's health bar.
I think it's not just Shinto in this case. Darda has found a nice clip onto Zapman. Maybe some extra bonus thrown out there by Lasbra. Zapman will be able to sustain back up. Devour's Gauntlet's online for him, but now the Pyromancer completely
Lasbra doesn't want him to heal up,
at
though.
this moment. Lasbra is going to stand around the wall to see if maybe they pull the green somewhere awkward, but instead it'll just be At least the Oracle Harpies. Jade Dragons now with vision in the Gold Fury pit.
Yeah, Dardes has the blink available. He's doing tons of damage. Went the Rod of Tahuti's second item. I do want to see this Chronos get active just because he doesn't have too much time before second relics are purchased, and that's when this blink loses a bit of its value. But it doesn't really seem like he wants to get close to Shinto. His opportunity is presenting itself, and it looks like Zapman once again is going to be in some trouble. Lazarus got the ult, but he can't find another auto attack. Should have the movement speed, but he's not going to chase it. The wing chart scared him off.
Just not willing to make the full commit from Lazarus, but does get ultimate off of Zapman at the very least. But that's going to be a rather short cooldown. I mean, unless Lazarus sits on this side of the map, might not get an opportunity to try and go for that gank yet again. So instead, their opportunity is Primal Fury for the Jade Dragons. It's just voting Lazarus. Dealing the damage to this one. Vote should be fine. He'll dash out just for safety, but Primal Fury to the Jade Dragons. 5 kills, a 2,000 and plus gold lead. Still kind of plateauing. Hasn't really expanded beyond here. In fact, Leviathans even finding opportunities to try and fight back, close up that gold a little bit more, but the Dragons still holding firm.
They are. Now it's the Dragons who are grouping towards Pyromancer. More so the tanks. Fine, okay. He's going to make the pull here. Shinto has the damage, but Zapman's not here. He's currently doing some mid-camp, so it's going to be a little late to the party, but Mike is the target, and he is gone. Shinto deletes him with the help of the ultimate from adapting. That should be a relatively free pull on the Pyromancer because Lasbra is also not here. He's farming on the left side of the map.
And Nika is not going to step up to this one. Realizes, all right, well, there were, what, 3-4 people there for you, Mike? That means there's probably that many people there for Pyro. So, the Leviathans can answer with their first objective of the game being that Pyromancer as Lasbra pushes a wave under Tier 2 tower. Try and deny some of that extra farm towards Zapman and really make sure that Vote can stay up ahead of his lane opposition. At this point, that's the most important thing for the Jade Dragons to keep their lead up. You got the first couple of kills. You answered a few more back. You got a few Furies, but maintaining the lead up against the Leviathans may be the most important part. I mean, late game competitions for both these two teams, Charlie. It feels like it's maybe equally scary. I mean, you got Dardes on a Chronos. We saw last season kind of the 2-tap build that he was running there, but then you get Shinto on this Baba Yaga, is able to put out insane damage last game. Kill on a final K be a great pull back in for the Jade Dragons. They'll do just that. Dardes credit for that one, but all set up by Nika and Lasbra to shred him away.
Yep, Dardes realized pretty much immediately there was missing some magic defense in that build, and now Zapman is going to try and ult out, but a good ult from PBM locks him in place. How much damage do you have? Not enough. Cavalry charge. Or I guess mounted archery. 2 different horses would be able to get him out, but now it's Leviathan surging forward.
To slow down onto Vote. He's low, but man, Riptide is so hard to chase into as a Leviathan at this point through. Does find the slow into Mike, but Lasbra, keep your eyes on him. He's looping back around. Vote's got no ultimate, but Lasbra does. The damage on a zap, most of it immune out, but the rest of it rings true. It's a killing spree for Laz. And Shinto and Rongyu to watch as their hunter falls for a 3rd time.
But adapting. And look at the split push from everyone. Dardes is trying to grab a Tier 2 tower. Final K's on the way. Polynomicon not quite finished, so it doesn't look like this tower goes down. But Adapting was able to grab the Tier 1 in mid. Nika's in mid lane just trying to stack up his Transcendence. He finally finishes that item. But a split siege for sure. Lazar gets his 3rd kill. Is trying to get that XP up, only sitting at level 13 so far, so is missing a bit of farm in that department, but Adapting is also missing a little bit of farm. So he's not going to be too far behind jungle-wise. Both are able to tick over to level 14. The gold lead certainly is in favor of the Jade Dragons because they've been the ones that are trying to find this aggression. And Dardes has the Polynomicon, so he's absolutely swinging. This, you can absolutely 100 to 0 sum with a blink combo like this. Didn't hit the poly, gets the beads down from Adapting. And that's going to be the end of the siege from Dardes, but Oni Fury's coming up. You get the beads down off Nemesis. Now you got yourself a target next time the fight comes through.
And Dardes, more than willing to take trades like that. He says, this blink is just my initiation. I'll come back and do it again once that is off. 2 minutes, though. So we can see another opportunity like that for Dardes, but still doing plenty of damage and getting an insane amount of farm compared even to the rest of his team there. Highest pacing as far as XP is concerned for the Jade Dragons and anybody else in the lobby. So Dardes, specifically on this Chronos, man. I mean, again, seeing what we witnessed in season season 9, at least for some of the players. The absolute monstrosity of damage output that you can do with this god. Maybe nerfed a little bit with some of the itemization changes here in at least year 10, but right now seeing what he can still do to structures, maybe he's a little scared for the Leviathans, because sieging was kind of the weak point for a couple of these teams out here, and well, Kronos seems to simplify that siege.
Kronos definitely makes your siege a little bit easier. Grabbing a Fury, and Oni Fury at that, will definitely make your siege easier as well if you try and go in for one of these towers. Tier 1 still available in the middle of the map. Dardis has the damage. Vote's no longer in dual lane, so I do want to see fighting towards the Pyromancer, and that seems to be the call. That's the reason Vote's here. They want to group up. They want to start to force these objectives. The Jade Dragons, that is, because they've got the lead, and they've got all the damage in the world. But it seems, yeah, like Nika's going to go to the left side of the map, just try and defend as Pyro starts up. It's only Shinto here, but he's got decent damage. Jade Dragons will be able to confirm.
Get it. Mike uses a Riptide out. Fine, okay, though. Zooming through. Just misses the pull onto Mike. And he'll be out. Zapman fighting against Nika. Nika's going to take him out on his own, but he doesn't have ultimate to chase out the kill. Zapman lives only because Nika doesn't have that chance to continue his dive forward.
Yeah, had both relics. Zapman holds on to him, though, so I guess just didn't fear the damage or didn't realize how much was going to come his way. So Zap goes back over to left lane to continue farming, and Dardes with that Polynomicon wants to grab this tower, but Adapting's here. He's going to keep it standing for now. Leviathans want to fight, though. This tower's going to drop, but do you look for the scrap afterwards? It looks like because the Leviathans are down and Zapman is not here, they are not going to look to aggress. I'm thinking the Jade Dragons have a chance to pull fire. It's 18 minutes. It's early. But Zapman's gone. They've got double ADC. They have plenty of pressure, and Lasbra is a threat. I'd be trying to pull here.
Maybe Nika plays zone duty, but Jade Dragons don't want fire, at least not right now. Maybe with the 2,600 gold in pocket for Dardes. Go back and spend that up. That might be the call. Even with Mike, maybe try to hit that level 15, get that starter item upgraded. Could be an option. Maybe for the Jade Dragons before they start up this Fire Giant, but for the time being, it will stand on the map. Nika's going to come defend to make sure Zapman can't take tier 1 tower. And it feels like that's what Nika's job is right now this game, is to keep Zapman out, to keep some of these carries from making their way into these fights, really be kind of that backline diver, that real nuisance to really have to deal with.
And that is what Tier provides. He is just annoying. You know, so far, does have the Transcendence, so that damage range true. Going into what I can only assume is more physical defense and going to get some more CDR, so going to be a threat to just about everyone on the side of the Leviathans. Baba Yaga doesn't care too much. You can use your blast off to just immune the Fearless. So CC-wise, you're not going to care, but damage is really what you're looking towards here, especially with the buff 2 tiers ultimate. A great engage here for the Jade Dragons. But the Leviathans had the opportunity. I mean, Dardes goes back, spends up that gold. Vote is still here. And it looks like Nika's just going to go for the engage, trying to pull a relic. There's no way that Zap's going to use anything, though. He's got beads and Aegis, just uses the ultimate to go away, and that's the end of the siege. It's just giving time for the Leviathans to catch up. I think the Jade Dragons are missing an opportunity to go for a pull here. If Zap's just going to camp out over on left, they've got plenty of damage. Dardes is an absolute threat. They should be killing anyone who walks up, whether that be a tank or a carry. And now finally it looks like they're setting up for a possible pull.
It's one of those moments where Leviathans are being a benefit from all this downtime, especially because Zapman's been getting free farm on left. He's still not caught up to Vote, but he's catching back up because he's able to get all these waves by himself. Leviathans keep pushing up because, I mean, towers are gone in a couple of lanes. I mean, right lane has absolutely nothing, so Dardes is able to push the minion wave all the way towards Phoenix, and now starting up. The Fire Giant is the Jade Dragons, but it could just be a bait. Mike is standing by with Nika, goes to the front line, missed the stun on a final K. Dardes gets the rewind and puts him right next to Wrong You. The boulder on top of Shinto, immune down. Shinto's out of the wave, manages to live through at the end of it. And now Wrong You is low, Adapting, charging it up against Lasbra. Now Adapting forced out of the fight. Too many low health bars on the Leviathans. The Jade Dragons can resustain up with Mike.
3 low health bars, but the Jade Dragons didn't stay on the FG. They wanted to fight, and they tried to find it. That was an engage from Dardes, though. He blinks in, he pulls some relics, ultimates immediately, then Lasper goes to the backline. Just could not find that Volcanic Lightning and confirm that kill onto Shinto. And that's a beautiful play. It's something that you don't want to do on Baba Yaga. When you go into the home sweet home, you don't want to cancel it so you Aegis. But unfortunately, sometimes you have to, especially when so much damage is coming through from Lasbra. He had to cancel that ultimate immediately into his relics and then jump away through the ultimate. gotta say, Mike has been on point, but just sometimes those ultimates split up a team fight. Makes you think you have a kill, makes you think you don't. And Lazar couldn't chase any longer because he wanted to stay with his team because of all those low health bars. But still, the Jade Dragons are showing.
He did.
Did he steal it? Oh
He
my
just stole
goodness,
it
he
with
stole.
Stole it with Bubble.
No. That was the
Okay.
Yeah, that was the Fury going down at the same time. I was gonna say, there's no way he stole it. He didn't. Pyromancer goes down toward the Leviathans.
Okay.
They get another runic bomb. Jade Dragons got the Fury at the same time. I got baited too. Don't worry.
Okay, we're good. We're fine. So there's a Pyro for Leviathans, a Fury for the Dragons, though. Maybe the more important of those two, at least. For the Jade Dragons, try and keep up their siege, keep up their push. But Leviathans have ways now to get back in. If they can drop those runic bombs in the Fire Giant pit amidst the chaos, could find an opportunity to steal. Final K teleports in. It's a group up around Fire. Dardes takes a nice chunk of Final K's health. Lasbra adds to that tally. Final K just got here. Will now have to go back. The Jade Dragons, half HP on the Fire. It's just Vote dealing the damage by himself to this one. No crit in hand. It's going down slowly. Rose Rebuke to lock out Wrong You. And now Dardes will show
Runic
up.
bombs.
The Fire Giant will go to the Jade Dragons. Wrong You barely finds a target to dash back to. The Wild Hunt hits, but it's not enough damage on the Wrong You. It seems the Jade Dragons are more interested in escaping from this fight, as PBM down to a third HP is on the run, but Wrong You will really crash down. It's over towards mid instead to try and find Dardes, but Dardes is returning the damage right back through. Gets the rewind.
The Jade
It's
Dragons
going to put
gotta
him
fight
right
this.
back to full HP. Vote slamming away at the health bars. Nika finds a double push, and the boulder's not enough. Vote takes down Wrong You, and Dardes still slamming away.
Yep, Dardes. With that ultimate, the rewind was enough to give the Jade Dragons new life in this fight, and they're going to siege forward. Remember, they got the Fire Giant. Usually they just want to get out. When the Leviathans chase them down and use every single ultimate, you got to try and return some fire. And this Kronos is doing just that. Tier 1 tower is the call. They've got plenty of damage for it, but Nika gets sent back in and just decides to ult.
Nika does ult. Tier 1 tower down. Blastbra to the pack line. The stun on top of 2. The slam is there by Dardes with a time rift. And Zapman falls down. Still 5 of the Jade Dragons around Tier 2. Mike and Nika both low. They can sustain back up with the help of Mike, but now the Leviathans rallying back around Tier 2, and Dardes on a lone assassin mission to try and take down some of these carries. Shinto a little healthy with that prophetic, but the damage is too much from Dardes. If Lazar had ult, you bet your money he would have been on top of Shinto at that point.
Yep, Dardes has not been missing. Consistent poke damage. That Tier 2 tower drops. And finally, the Jade Dragons are going to try and run away. Final K. He's got some movement speed, but Nika gets around the wall, so he'll be just fine. Not going to be dished back up towards the enemy team. The Jade Dragons are not leaving. They have so much gold in hand. Pretty much the entirety of their lead is in their hands currently. They haven't spent it up yet. But they are going to go for one more Tier 2 tower before they decide to send it back home. No way they stick around. I was going to say this would be just a silly call with how much gold they have to spend. And that is going to be the full-on retreat as Final K pushes up a wave. If he driving strikes, I was going to say Lazar might try and go for the 1v1, but it looks like, once again, too much gold in pocket. Decides to get the Sea of the Jungle, upgrade some of these starter items. Just about everyone gets a massive upgrade there for the Jade Dragons. They weren't able to break the base, though. Those Phoenixes are still standing tall, and Fire Giant's only available for another 35 seconds or so. So I imagine we're setting up for another Fire Giant here fight, J-Mac.
Yeah, Fire Giant back up in a minute and a half. So Jade Dragons, they start up their grouping around the pit, get some wards dropped down by Mike. Everybody on the Dragons sitting with wards in pocket. Final K with a 5th item, Shadow Drinker. Maybe questionable on the Hercules, who hasn't gotten any kills yet this game. Hasn't really come close to securing one. Maybe just wants the damage, the stats that the item provides to him more so than the passive, but I don't know how I feel about necessarily with Final K. Does double down for at least a little bit of extra damage in pocket with that Golden Blade, but I don't know how much value Fino's going to get from that passive.
Once he gets a kill and then turns it into a penta because they can't see him, you're going to eat those
No,
words.
I am.
And if he doesn't, then I'm going to call it Shadow Stinker. But at the moment, he seems just fine. He's 0-1, has been able to do good damage. A little bit of an ambush here. Zapman and adapting. They want Lazar, but is he going to walk towards them? No. If anything, I would say the Leviathans might walk into a trap because there's 4 Jade Dragons surrounding them. Yeah, they're going to have to go back to base. That could have been a risky call. But if Lasper walked towards them, would have had the time to stall and wait for his team to show up. So I think actually better for the Leviathans that Lasper didn't walk into that, quote, trap, because he was able to fight back or at least stall as team showed up. But the Primal Fury goes down, and the Jade Dragons should have time to set up some vision towards this Fire Giant. My only question is, do the Leviathans feel as if they can defend, or do they just split push and go for some extra farm? Given the fact that Zapman, FineOK, and Rong Yu are on the left side of the map, I would say a chance at a steal, if anything, but there's no way they're grouping as 5 towards the Fire Giant.
Now FineOK heading over. Mike and Vote spot him out. Dart is here as well. The Assassin Kronos. Obsidian Shard, final item in pocket. Jade Dragons, my goodness. Quick burst damage to the Fire Giant from the Dragons. Some the Leviathans are just going to give up on this one. No chance for them to get in there and steal this one away. Don't want to risk losing a life. So Jade Dragons get fire for all 5. Again, it's mostly Vote just dealing the damage to it while the rest of the team spreads across the map, prevents some of the split push that the Leviathans were aiming for. They did get a tier 2 tower, that being the Leviathans over on the left side, but it's about all they're going to get for now. And the Siege defense, Charlie, might be an opportunity for us now to kind of talk about it here. Leviathans, how's it kind of fair for them, even being 10,000 gold down? Still not great to fight with that level of deficit, but are there maybe some silver linings on their defense against the Dragons?
Well, they've got decent clear. It doesn't look easy, though, because Shinto's their greatest damage, and he gets absolutely deleted if he goes into the house. If Shinto ults, I would argue it's actually a deficit because of how easy it will be for Dardes and Lasper to hit all their AoE damage and just focus out this Baba Yaga. You cannot use your Aegis in that ultimate, and because of that, that's a go button for Lasper. He goes, oh, you're ulting? Cool. I'm using Volcanic Lightning. I'm going to one-shot you. So Shinto has to stay very far back, but they've got good CC. That is their one benefit. Rong Yu's got good peel and can lock down and force out beads, especially if someone overcommits towards mid. The Jade Dragons definitely do want to go for a bit of a split approach here. Looks like a 2-1-2. Whereas Dardes and Nika have the best chance of grabbing a Phoenix because Dardes has Polynomicon and his Kronos and will just absolutely shred this Phoenix if he gets the minions in. That's the reason FineOK and Zapman are here. They've got good wave clear and they don't have too much to fear. I assume Dardes blinks in on Zap. That'd be the play.
Yeah, I would think so, but Dardes playing patiently around his blink, waiting for those cooldowns to come back up.
Oh my goodness.
And an opportune time. That's why it's so hard to really fight against the Baba Yaga. I mean, look what he did to just Lasbra. Zapman attributing a little bit of that one. He ulted. Yeah. Dardes, what happened to his HP? Must have gotten double tapped by FineOK on the boulder or something. But
that's the Shadow Drinker.
Yeah. Making you Shadow think.
Yep, about how much damage he just did. That's it. The siege is over. I mean, Zapman pulls Lasbra's ultimate defensively just by using that mounted archery. FineOK also says, hey, I'm going to punch you and throw a boulder at you, and Dardes is done with that fight. They've got time to reset, of course, but that's a great start to the defense. And Zapman and FineOK are just waiting on those cooldowns, but Dardes used the beads, no blink. He still has the opportunity to blink in onto Zapman and then reset. It's going to be Nika who goes in. Doesn't pull anything because he was in the assault stance, meaning there's no stun, just extra damage.
It's good damage.
It was fine damage, but he looks full health to me because his base is right there. So it doesn't actually work out, and given the fact that ultimate's down, I wouldn't be surprised if the siege is done. 15 seconds left. We might be looking at EFG, J-Mac.
How much golden pockets does Nika have? Because he's sitting on almost 2,200. Well, blink past FineOK. Dardes gets stunned as soon as he goes back, and now Dardes forced to rewind. Gonna go right back in place, though. Picked up by Fino.
He's got no beads.
Dardes misses the stun, gets the time rift, and Nika's there to bail him out. Now Lasbra's here as well. Rong Yu in the sky will crash in with 2.
They're going for the end.
Dardes could just go for this, but
Titan.
Meanwhile, it's a base race for Mike and Vote. The dual lane of the Dragons. Can they get this one down? Adapting takes out Lasbra, and now it can go back to base.
Is anyone backing?
But Rivers Rebuke is there. Adapting, does he have the damage to get back? Does he stop this one?
Vote
Mike dies. But Vote's able to take this one. The dual lane of the Dragons backdoor the Leviathans on maybe a questionable push left.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it looked like the fight was just going terribly, and then you look up and see the dual lane, like, we got Phoenix, and then we didn't leave, and
we just stayed here.
Yeah, no one was able to back up. Turns out Vote with those AoE auto attacks just shreds through the Titan. And if you ask the Jade Dragons, that was all part of the plan.
Jade Dragons, man, I mean, they dominated the early game. Started out this game 5-1, hit a bit of a lull towards the mid game. Late game comes through, we start seeing the damage output that Dardas can do, that Vote's able to do, but the repelling, at least from the Leviathans at these sieges over and these Phoenixes, looked really strong for them. And they just make one mistake at the end. They step out of base to go for a chase, and the Dragons punish them for it.
Yeah, Mac, you know what they say. If you can't siege the Phoenix, just kill the Titan. It's that easy.
Is that what they say?
Everyone's been saying it.
Well, how do you siege the Titan? How do you kill the Titan if you don't siege the Phoenix?
Yeah, just watch that game. Just do that.
All right, if you want to win your games, just do exactly what the Jade Dragons did as they take on the Leviathans in 2-1 fashion. And that's it for me and Charlie on the cast. We'll throw it to the desk to break down Game 3.
It's nice to see Trelly has been reading the prophecies. That's exactly what I saw back in the day as well. It's just if you can't siege the Phoenix, just kill the Titan.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a while now. I'm surprised J-Mac hadn't heard that.
Yeah, honestly, you have it tattooed somewhere, I'm pretty
Somewhere,
sure.
yeah. It's probably around here. You'll never see it, Chad. Don't worry.
Dragons win that one. Look, a stumble in Game 2, if that's what you want to call it. Really weird choices from the Dragons going into the game. And then Leviathans control that one pretty dominant. But Game 1, Game 3, a little more Dragons heavy. Objective-wise in Game 1, this time around, just kind of all around. I think you get a good performance from Lasberg, great performance from Mike. And you know what, Mifflin? Suddenly, that conversation about never winning against Yamoja that I thought was irrelevant because it had only happened at the very beginning of the season is relevant again. And not only that, it sandwiches the entire phase for the Leviathans here.
It does. Levi's here in Game 3, man. My heart goes out to him, Gore. It really does, because they get such an awful hand dealt to them. You know, play on field cost them the early game almost entirely on first wave. Bled out across the map, starts in duo and mid simultaneously. From there, Levi's playing a catch-up game against a scaling composition here from the Jade Dragons. Worried about how well this Kronos is going to have to perform. Leviathans finally given a breath of fresh air. A couple of fight-back opportunities. Few sieges stopped. The Jade Dragons, you know, they partake of that age-old adage that Trelly has so graciously bestowed upon us. If you can't siege, just kill the Titan.
Sometimes it's as easy as it gets. 3-0-1. Doesn't look too insane. In fact, damage numbers don't even look that crazy. But it's because the kills paid the bills this time, Evelyn. Got them massive leads where they needed them to. And we're able to find a pretty solid control on this one. A very weird, I want to say, dichotomy of the sets. But honestly, if you're looking at it, the Dragons wanted this win. Ideally, they would have gotten it 2-0. They weren't able to find that one. But a win's a win's a win is a win. And that's exactly what they do right here. Being able to set themselves, I guess, ahead, right? End this on a positive note for the season.
Big.
It also gives us a really interesting perspective, I think, going towards playoffs at this point, right? This is the last time we're going to see these two teams for weeks at this point. I guess about 2 weeks, a little under. And so it creates a interesting point of view. What they're going to look like during playoffs, what they're going to look like during Masters. But I think all that matters right now is what they looked like today, and a win is what the Dragons get. And of course, who better to talk to about it than the Dragons themselves? We got PBM standing by for an interview.
Yeah, that's right. I got Mike from the Jade Dragons here for our post-game interview. Mike, first off, congrats on the 2-1 win over the Leviathans. Talk about maybe, you know, game number 1, pretty back and forth for the two in your squads, able to get a couple of capitalizing kills. What happened in game number 2? Just a little bit of a lull in the pace there against the Leviathans.
Well, we role swapped Dardas because Liam wasn't handling Zap very well. So Dardas and I cooked him in the 2v2. Last tried to gank. His dodge E3 got canceled, so unfortunately we didn't get the freest double kill of my life. And then you kind of saw my presence there on that tower line at level 8. They decided they had to TP and send 4 people over, so 5-man rotation to kill me. And they barely even managed to do that. So it was a little pathetic from their end, but we were like, you know what, let's throw them a bone. We'll coin flip a pyro. They stole it with a horror assault, you know. First good play Ronnie made all set. Only good play he made all set. So they get that, and then we lose that game. We go into game 3, and I mean, we just put the beat down on them.
Yeah, just kind of gave him the old rundown here in game 3. And talk to me kind of about the ending there of game number 3, because we saw Nika and Dardas just kind of having a little bit of fun over on the left side, trying to maybe find a pick on the Zapman if possible. Everybody rotates over. At that point, we see that you guys are split pushing over on the right and then going for the Titan. Are you surprised that none of them came back to try and stop you at all?
I think Nika was stopping backs. Honestly, I was just playing that whole set for fun. I was just having fun. So when Liam and I had the chance to backdoor, you know, we're going to take it. It was a good time.
Having a lot of fun there. And for you guys now, getting a win, up against the Leviathans, ending off your season, maybe on a high note here, does that kind of maybe raise some spirits for you guys moving in towards playoffs?
Oh, not at all. We are dog. We are absolute trash right now. But Dardez's visa, I think, is near complete. He should be here for playoffs. That'll be pretty big. That guy is absolutely into in every single scrim session. So, yeah, I'm still proud of the team. They spend, we spend a lot of time trying to get better, and just right now the talent's not there yet, but we're trying to foster a nice environment, and hopefully we have things turn up soon.
Do you think it's an instinct because of the ping, or it's because that's just him in general? Do you think that maybe tones down once he's here, or do you think he just maybe ramps it up?
I've learned something from playing with European players,
right.
And anytime anything goes wrong, they just say CBA, and I still don't fully understand what it means. But like Dardez loads into a scrim, he misses one ability, he's like, I CBA today, and that's it. So.
Sometimes that's just how it goes. Well, Mike, congratulations on the win to end off your season. We'll see you at the playoffs, and that's it for us here on the interview. We'll throw it back over to Des. Keep it going.
Wise words there, Mifflin, from Mike. Good insight into the Dragons, how things are working, and where they're at going into playoffs, man. They win 2-1, and that means that we are one step closer towards the end of the day. One set down, 2 more to go. And, of course, we're taking a trip over to a very important division right now. Everything, as we had mentioned in the Chaos Division, has been decided for quite some time. Not quite finished yet over there in the Order Division. Ferrymen and Hounds coming up next. And then, of course, Ravens and Kings fighting for first a little bit later today. Still some opportunities for little shimmy shakes. But what you see on the right-hand side there, Mifflin, that's where it stands, right? Warriors, Levi's, Dragons, Glads. Top to bottom, Chaos Division done, dusted, and locked. And for one of those teams, 10-0, 13 straight sets in a row, we're not going to get to see them for like another month versus everybody else a little under 2 weeks.
That is a damn shame.
They're so fun to watch.
I love watching the Oni Warriors right now. They're just doing it differently from everybody else, but perhaps good for everybody else that we won't be able to see them. You get a break from the beatings they've been handing
everybody's
out.
Just like, man, whew, dodged a bullet there, bro. Those guys are second. All of a sudden, if they get to go to the playoffs, different conversation. Or playoffs is like elimination, not just seeding. Suddenly, all of it becomes a much different story. Right now, though, a little bit of a battle towards, I want to say, like the bottom, but that bottom is midpoint of the league, it seems like, in the Order Division. Sure. Ferrymen and Hounds, 4 and 5, I believe, for one of them, 5 and 4 for the other. Definitely a very interesting matchup between the two of them. Hounds have been on a really good streak. Ferrymen want to bounce back after a 2-0 or a 0-2 loss, I guess I should say, up against the Ravens earlier this week. We'll see whether or not they can do it, or if the Hounds can continue their tear right after this.
Styx Ferrymen versus the Eldritch Hounds. The Styx Ferrymen have been on the rise, rowing down the competition and climbing the ranks. The Eldritch Hounds fight tooth and nail to claw their way up the standings. Who will win, the old blood or the new hotness? Tune in Sunday and find out.